had to get here at 4:30 to get first. But anyway, I'm Pastor Davis. I'm here to share from you a little portion of scripture tonight, and we appreciate the opportunity, the Holy Word of God. Luke chapter number 13, the scripture says in verse number 3, I tell you nay, but except you repent, you shall all likewise perish. Verse 5 says, I tell you, he repeats himself, so I tell you nay, but except ye repent, you shall all likewise perish. And we all believe in repentance. We just sometimes we misunderstand the definition of words. And this word, since Jesus spoke it back in Luke chapter number 13, is actually changed in definition. And we look it up in the dictionary today. It gives you some definition. It really isn't what Christ was talking about. But he's talking to what we would call the good folk. The church goers, that'd be the Baptists and Episcopals and Lutherans and all the good folks that go to church every Sunday and pay their tithes and don't talk about their neighbors and don't gossip and don't backbite and all the good folks. He's talking to the good folks, the Pharisees. So what in the world, when he says to them, except you repent, you're going to die and go to hell, you're going to perish. What in the world was they thinking when he told them to repent? What they're going to repent of? And so you think about the word repentance, and we have to ask ourselves, what is the genuine definition of the word repentance? By the way, the Bible never commands a lost person to repent of their sins to be saved. The Bible never commands a lost person to confess their sins to be saved. I'm thankful for that because I got so many, I never remember them all. Amen. But anyway, the fact of the matter is we have a confusion about the word repentance. The word repentance means coming to God with your hands empty, recognizing there is nothing you can do and nothing you can bring to satisfy the debt that you owe. It means understanding you are utterly, totally at the mercy of Almighty God, and that He is your only hope. There's nothing you can bring, nothing we can offer God. What do we have that we can offer a holy and righteous God to forgive us? So repentance is simply changing our mind about what we believe to get to heaven. These folks believed that doing good works, being the best you can, being a good neighbor, just trying to be honest and upright, that meant they was going to heaven. They were Jews. Because they were Jews, they were sons of Abraham. They were going to heaven. And Jesus said, nope, except you change your mind and realize that salvation is in a person, not in your work, but in His work. It's not you working for God. It's actually God working for you. Amen? Amen. Thank you. God bless you. Now let me get out of the way.
Thank you, sir. Jeff Eastland.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Eastland. I live next door in Stafford County. You may recall I was here last month speaking on the Green Ventures Rezone app, and I came back this month. Why? Because I love my country and I hate what's happening to it. These data centers are invasive, disruptive, polluting industries. You've got light pollution. They're talking about planting wildflowers. There won't be a pollinator within miles of the place. You've got noise from backup generators. You've got the particulate matter emitted from generators, the PM 2.5 and PM 10 that gets in your lungs and doesn't exit. You've got the low frequency noise that you can't hear but can feel that travels 3 miles through walls and barriers and has been documented to affect the cognitive development of children. You got wastewater discharge, chemical discharge, electronic waste, toxic steam from the cooling towers, all that gets into the biosphere, the ecosystems, the creeks, the watersheds, the aquifers, people's wells. All that said, it's often the build out that causes the most stress for residents. You're talking about a 10-year build out, a decade of clearing, grading, bulldozing, graveling, paving, endless stream of large construction vehicles careening up and down the roads, kicking up dust, emitting pollutants, backing up, going ding, 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 all day, half the night. Gravel trucks racing to beat deadlines, to the point where, if it comes to fruition, I can assure you, good gentleman and lady, that you'll never recognize your place again here. These buildings that house the computer servers, I mean, I've got a phone and laptop like everyone else. I also had a phone and a laptop 30 years ago without data centers breathing down my neck. So let's be clear, it's driven by artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, the two biggest con jobs ever, built on speculation and unknowns, where they get to actually be the business and the ultimate end user customer at the same time. Now you need to decide what you're going to have here for future generations. Do I know the answer? No, but I know what's not the answer, and it's not this. So do the right thing, not for the companies, not for the tech billionaires that have more money than they know what to do with, not for the fossil fuel CEOs that have more money than they know what to do with, but for your residents and future generations here in King George County, because a data center economy is not going to do it for them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Don Shelton.
Don Shelton. I live in Indiantown Village, off Indiantown Road in Indiantown, King George. Couple things. Thank you for your efforts that y'all been doing on the Second Amendment sanctuary. And the second thing I'll share with you, talking about pollution from the data centers. When the power plant was operational, it only produced 3% of the pollution provided by the 18-wheelers on Route 3. I'm sure it's a little worse now. Just something to consider. Thank you, guys. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Lovell.
Hi, my name is Ana Maria Lobo. I live in Presidential Lakes. I want to thank you for your service to the community. I know that the job is very hard. I think the service authority is in good hands, but it's very important that you fix the things that breaks. For a long time, not enough attention was paid to the service authority, and things got more complicated. It's also important that we pay down the debt, since every other month you charge an extra fee for the debt. That money should be used to pay our debt. Also, I want you to think very careful about allowing these data centers into King George County. Virginia seems to have an obsession with the data centers. We are becoming known as the data centers of the world. These centers use a lot of water and electricity. My electric bill, right here it is. This is the second time I have $400 plus. How much more will be after all these centers are up and running? I know you want more revenue for the county, but I want to remind you that one of you ran on being more transparent and accountable to the people, the King George. You also complained before that the people were not being listened to or included. You also say that you wanted to keep taxes low and stable. The last supervisor seems to give our taxes money to anyone that asks for money. Well, I noticed that you don't seem to be doing that, but I want to remind you that our taxes should be spent efficiently. Also, in 2023, we were told that the county debt was $200 million. In 2020, taxes were raised about 40%. I hope some of the money was put aside for future use and for paying down the debt. Also, I want to tell you Dahlgren is a very busy place with all the people coming from Maryland. We are very lucky to have the base. is a valuable source for the county. I can remember a time when the government was talking about closing the base and moving to Indian Head, but thank goodness they didn't. They stay here, they're still here, and it's a great revenue for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Pastor Shaw.
James Shaw, James Monroe District, columnist, Northern Next Sentinel, citizen journalist, kgmedia.top, speaking in my behalf as capacity as a EDA member and citizen. New hat, by popular demand, stuff happens. For those who may wonder why we in the county do maintenance, why we are proactive about some things, why we are moving to a more forward-looking stance with our CIP capital improvement plan, one only needs to shift one's gaze north, along with one's schnozola, think Jimmy Durante, to see and smell the gargantuan sea of aromatic organic compounds that is oozing its way towards the county's northern and eastern shores of the recently renamed Potomac River. Yes, the greatest waste spill on record of 300 million gallons is headed our way. As of Monday, FEMA has been activated to assist in guiding and leading the cleanup of an event that started back on January 19th. FEMA is here now because the other three entities, Virginia, where the wastewater originates, Maryland, through which the 6-foot diameter Potomac interceptor pipe runs, it's 60 years old, made of concrete that's fell apart. And lastly, DC, where the sewage is processed. They were moving slowly. An obvious leadership vacuum had developed. One estimate put the repair at 10 months, which would be in December. Good question to ask. Virginia DEQ, are they going to be levying some fines? We as a county have been levied fines in the past for sewer spills. Those guys up north should not miss the same opportunity. If our service authority did one of those kind of things, yep, we would get taken care of quite quickly. The question is, do we have the connections or whatever? Looking for persons of authority and responsibility, they seem to be conspicuously absent up there. And so people who know what they're doing have to step in and help. Would like to hear your news regarding any of your communications you had with Virginia DEQ, because they would be, I'm sure, involved in some of that fining type stuff. God bless the King George Renaissance as we take action to eventually bring sweeter smelling times to our local rivers.
Thank you, sir. Sarah Balin. Did I pronounce that correctly?
It's Balon.
Balon, I apologize.
It's okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Balon, and I live in the James Monroe District. After public comment, the board typically takes a second to recap what they have been doing since our last meeting. I figured I would take this time now to do the same. Last Monday, February 9th, I woke up at 4 a.m. and rode to Richmond, coffee in hand, to speak to my representatives for Data Center Reform Lobby Day. At 8 a.m., I was sitting on a bench on the 5th floor of the General Assembly building when a woman and her son sat down next to me. We exchanged names and expressed how nervous we were to be there for the first time. Addressing the woman, I asked specifically what bills she was there to discuss, and she said it was actually her son Alex's idea. I then asked Alex what he is most concerned about, and he said the data center's environmental impact. Alex is 13, and he convinced his mother to not only let him take off school, but to drive from Alexandria and rent a hotel in Richmond so that he can speak with his senator and delegates about the environmental impact of data centers. When I was 13, I was concerned about what time my shows came on and finishing my homework. This might seem corny, but I wanted to share anyways. These were given to me 15 years ago on the Sealston playground by my best friend when we were in the 3rd grade. It's a husky and a little monkey figure. She has since moved out of King George, but every time we talk, we reminisce over our time at Sealston Elementary School. We only have good things to say. When I was 14, me and 3 other friends convinced one of our fathers to drive us to Sealston in the dead of night, and we took turns pushing each other on the swings. We looked at the stars and we cried. We cried over our shared memories we made on the playground and fondly over our childhoods. Last year at the Youth Climate Action Summit held at UMW, an 18-year-old spoke about how at 12 years old, she started the Fun Futures Not Highways campaign because students at her elementary school were no longer allowed to attend recess outside because the air quality was so bad from all of the diesel trucks. Even after recess was called off, the State Department was trying to expand the highway. At 12 years old, Adon Crandall went to the Department of Transportation headquarters every week, every city council meeting, and protested outside of the governor's house. I want the 700 plus students of Sealston Elementary School to be able to appear in front of the board as I am now and only have good things to say. I do not want those kids to enter middle school and feel the need to miss class and drive to Richmond so they can speak for stricter data center regulations because a 6.5 million square foot data center project that will release high amounts of particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, and noise pollution was built 3 miles from their elementary school. King George is smart, we are resilient, and I know that we can come up with a better project for this land. I'm asking that we please deny green energy ventures because, again, no amount of money will be worth it to these kids if they cannot breathe the air. Thank you again for your time.
Mr. Swain. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right.
Good to go? Thank you. I'm J.W. Swain. I was chemist in another life. I worked at a heavy industrial chemistry company south of Richmond. I just think that there appears to be a little regard for environmental issues concerning data centers. Why should we be concerned with these? Well, I'm going to talk about 2, airborne emissions. And in front of you, you've got 2 pictures. The top picture is a cooling tower. The green ventures looks like they're going to have about, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 78 or so or more cooling towers. If you look at that stuff coming out the top, that's not gas, that's not flue gas, that's water particles and airborne particles that have chemicals in them and everything else. Where does that disperse to? It disperses all over depending on the weather, the atmospheric conditions at the time, and the river. The river's 3,400 feet away from that site, and Sealston Elementary is less than 2 miles. What's the other major conflict? Look at the second page or the bottom of that page. You'll see that's a live shot of Loudoun County when they were told that they had to go on a generator power. There are 7 generators there. Green Energy will probably have in the vicinity of 260 generators. Let me give you an idea of what that's going to be like. That's 4,000 horsepower per generator. Average truck coming up and down the road is 500 horsepower. So that's equivalent to about 2,100 trucks sitting in a parking lot all running. To me, that's a lot of gas. Where does that gas go? Again, the black that you see in there is benzene. Benzene is a carcinogen. It's known by the American Cancer Society and it's known by the EPA. Where does that gas go? Into the atmosphere, and then it settles down at some point along its route. It could go anywhere the wind blows. If you lose the battle against Amazon, then those generators will be even closer, and more generators will be even closer to that grade school, that elementary school. And I liken this to the fact that science has not caught up to the technology. In other words, in the 60s, smoking was a pretty cool thing to do. Now you can't smoke in a federal building or a state building. That's where we are. That's where we stand with these data centers. We don't know what's going to come out, what's going to come down the road, but we do know that the things that are being emitted from these data centers is poisonous and can have detrimental effects on our bodies. So I'd ask you to look at this and say, I know you need the money. I know you're in a tough pickle. But I'm looking at look at our health, look at our kids' health, and think about those future plans for our kids and our own health in this county and other counties. I'm sorry, I forgot to say, I'm in 225 Brentham Farm Drive, and I'm 100 yards from King George. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's the last of those who've signed up. Is there anybody else in the audience who didn't get a chance to sign up but would like to make public comment? Anybody else? I'm joking. Burnley got his hand up first. I'll get back with you. Come on up, Burnley. Mr.
Yeah, thank
Taylor.
you. And this is Burnley Taylor. I'm in the Madison District. I'm a member of the landowning entity that's involved with the Green Energy Ventures project. And as I said last month, I want to thank all of you for your service to the county, for your continued service, for your consideration of this request. And just wanted to say that change is always happening. It will always be with us. It never has not been with us. 400 years ago, the property in question was a dense forest, happy hunting ground for the Native Americans. About 100 years ago, I venture to say that very few houses that now exist in this county even existed. And they were where a forest was, or a field. 40 years ago, every house that is at the Hop Yard Farm development was on agricultural land. Probably 300 years from now, who knows what will be at the site in question. Given technology, could be a forest again. At any rate, we have to be prepared for change. And certainly the King George County leadership understands that. They see the financial needs, and boy, does this help solve it. I've got a number for you, $3,757. That's the amount I pay every year in real estate taxes for the entire property in question here. $3,757. That won't pay for 1 month of a starting teacher's pay. Here's another number, 0.4%. That's the amount of land in relation to the rest of the county. In other words, 99.6% of the county will not be the King George Technology Center. Now is the time to make a strong decision for the future of this county. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Come on up, Arn. Mr. Lyson.
Good evening, Arn Eliason, James Madison District. As you all probably heard, the famous actor Robert Duvall passed away this week. And it was 3 years ago that Robert Duvall and his wife Luciana attended a town council meeting in Warrenton, Virginia, and the goal was to lobby against a planned data center there. He said that throughout his storied career of 70 years, he always came back to Fauquier County because his heart was tethered there. I'll read you a couple of quotes that he had said at that meeting. He said, "I've always returned to Fauquier County, Virginia for the sense of relief that comes from what makes this place so special." Duvall said, "Preserving Fauquier's unique character requires the collective effort of the community," and he noted that the town's reputation was threatened by the potential development of a data center campus. His final paragraph was, "I urge the town council to consider carefully their important decision regarding the special use permit that might open the doors to improperly located data centers." A lot of this rang true for me in the sense that our gateway to our community, what is our sort of our front door, is being threatened in exactly the same way. I understand the financial benefits. I do understand Mr. Taylor's point of view that change is inevitable. Part of the problem is the speed of change. It's like a Pac-Man coming down Kings Highway from Stafford, where I believe they've lost their way. They've sold their soul. And they are all, that is the citizens of Stafford. Many of them live in places that I would not want to live. I have a son who lives in Northern Virginia, a place where I would not choose to live. I have chosen to live in King George County because of its unique and beautiful character, its open space, its dark nights, its quiet, its peace. And I urge the council here, the Board of Supervisors, to think about Robert Duvall's understanding of the problem and his approach. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Oh, okay.
Good evening. I'm Marcel Iverberg, Hardy Group. I'm right next door to this development. And obviously, as you all know, I'm in danger of disappearing if this thing goes through. I've spoken to most of all of you, at least the ones that wanted to talk to me. And I know you're not silly people. But however, I think you're all very much aware of the negative effects that this thing will have. A couple gentlemen here spoke very eloquently about the dangers and the pollution. And as you well know, I have a farm and there's 200 people there, a few hundred feet from this thing. So I have written letters, I have talked to you all. You're just predetermined. That's all I can say. Deaf to cogent arguments of all these people in this variety. And yes, we need funds, but do we not already have 2 data centers approved? What is going on? Is this some sort of rat race to approve as many data centers as we can get our hands on? Just to throw a bunch of spaghetti on the wall so see what sticks? This is the most inappropriate location that I can imagine ever. Not to mention, it will make our employees sick. It will close our farm down, whether you think so or not. And I know you think so because based on last month's meeting, you can tell that you guys are aware of that. And it's real. I'm not standing up here blowing smoke. There's obvious surprise last month about the traffic impact. Has anybody ever considered the traffic impact of 2 data centers within 500 feet of each other? The answer is no. No one has. But this is what you're doing to this county if you approve. I implore you to use your head. Like I said, you all are not silly people. If the motive to approve is taxes, these taxes are imaginary. Does anybody here understand the process of today's data center approval, data center construction, the input of Google and Microsoft and large companies, the billions of dollars? These folks are going to create all that? I don't think so. You can argue that we need the taxes, but they're not coming, folks. They're not coming. Stop wasting your time with imaginary taxes spun by a group of people that have no business putting this deal together. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Come on up.
I just wandered in here. I don't have any prepared statement. I wasn't even sure what this was all about.
Before you continue on, please introduce yourself and tell us which district you vote in.
I didn't. And what did you want to know?
Your name?
Name Don Hoskin.
Okay. And where do you vote, sir?
I'm just commenting.
Okay. We still have to have that for the record, unfortunately.
I'm not going to vote on anything.
Okay.
I just wandered in here to watch it in data centers. I had one of the first internet service providing companies. AOL was selling by the hour, and I was selling by the month. And I bought 3 commercial properties in Fairfax, and I've built tens of thousands of computers. And I own the business, and I own the commercial property, so I owned it all. But I remember when the internet started, I was arguing with people about email, and they were saying that you had to use fax machines, and I was arguing about the speed and the baud rate as it increased to teleconferencing abilities that school could be online. And the Supreme Court was saying that online law school would be non-accredited, and then the Supreme Court justice overturned that. I just as a regular guy who doesn't have a strong opinion either way, but my own experience is I think this is technology. I think you can't stop it, and I think it's going to be obsolete very soon also. I think your community can make some money on it. And I've seen data centers in Ashburn. The whole operation employs 10 people. You've got plumbers that are going to be cooling off these graphic processing units. This isn't going to be harboring thousands of jobs. And I think the cooling systems are going to be moved into satellites, and it's going to be cooled in the atmosphere in space pretty soon. And I think this whole thing's going to be obsolete, but you guys can make some money on it. And I don't think you should stand in the way of progress, because I think it's going to take its course. And I think you have an opportunity here. And I was on the cutting edge, and then I became obsolete. And then I think this whole thing is just going to take its course. And that's just me as a regular guy who didn't prepare this statement at all, but that's my own experience.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Anybody receive any written correspondence? Oh, did you want to make a public comment? Public correspondence, go for it. Yep.
All right, this is Brittany and James Madison. Thank you for bringing this attention to the matter of the Board of Directors and Board of Supervisors. With the recent pollution of the Potomac by the Alexandria Water Authority, has our King George Service Authority contacted the offending authority to understand the issues and complexities of the situation? If so, what was discussed? And if not, when do you plan to contact them, and who will contact them? This is an environmental emergency where Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia have all urged people to stay away from the river. When do we expect a formal report from DEQ and/or the authority on the issues, and what discussions are to be had on a path forward for remediation? How will the offending authority work with ours moving forward as this spill impacts us in great detail? What prophylactic actions can we, the Service Authority and King George County, take to minimize damage to our wildlife in the Potomac? What can we do to minimize the negative impact of our watermen and their trades, such as fishing, oysters, crabbing, etc.? What, if any, actions can be taken to minimize damage to our parks along the river and minimize damage of King George waterfront landowners? What legal actions can the King George Service Authority or Board of Supervisors take against the offending water authority? And will the King George County taxpayer be punished and expected to pay for the remediation? This contamination will and is destroying our native wildlife who depend on the river, and this will again negatively impact our watermen who can no longer sell, and we cannot consume the animals that have been poisoned in the river. The Potomac is home to countless endangered American bald eagles and other animals. What, if any, lawsuits can be brought to ensure accountability for this, and so that the King George County Service Authority customers and the King George County taxpayers don't end up fronting this burden? What statutes could be utilized for contaminating a food source and a natural habitat? This issue is likely avoidable and is due to negligence and will all be impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. So this is from Chris Palmer in Bayberry Estates. I want to provide some thoughts in the spirit of compromise of the recent development. While the county needs additional revenue and jobs to continue sustainable growth, the concerns of the residents should not also be ignored. My proposal for this project to succeed for both the residents and the applicant are: first, reduction of buildings from 13 to 6 with a flexibility of up to 9 if the applicant is willing to abandon the exemption for height restriction. Unused property from building reduction is either turned into green space or donated to parks and recreation for use with Dogwood Trail. Applicant agrees to random annual audits of noise and environmental impacts of data center conducted by the county, not the applicant, with an agreed upon penalty and structure that is voted on by the county residents. This is then further codified for future data center projects. Additional traffic signals should really be avoided, and ironically, the plans being used for Walmart and for the CVS lights would actually be a better fit, which is close to what VDOT is already proposing. I ask this project not be approved tonight, as I think there's still much work to be done. Take it from me, compromise might have been reached with Walnut Hill, but it cannot be done with this project. Hopefully my comment was not too long. Thank you. Chris Palmer.
All right, thank you. Anybody else get any correspondence? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment at this time. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Mr. Dines, you got anybody online?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have Kristen Pruitt. Kristen Pruitt,
Thank you.
can you please give your comment?
Good evening, members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Kristen Pruitt. I am a business owner company located in King George Industrial Park. And I am urgently asking you to approve this data center, technology center for King George. I'm a local business owner and I care deeply about the county's economic stability, responsible growth, and long-term success. And the revenue coming from this can't be ignored. That revenue can be put into schools, teacher salaries, alternative replacement training for young people, the proffers and improvements that they have offered for this project, I believe shows an intention to be a good community member. I think it's a forward-thinking project. It's located in an excellent area. Part of it's already in an industrial park. I don't think the county will be able to maximize the revenue per acre that this project can bring. I hope that you will approve this project as an opportunity to secure long-term financial stability, support public safety and education, and reinforce King George's economic foundation. It is a strategic investment in the county's future and in the quality of the life of its residents and businesses. These are only some of the reasons that I respectfully encourage that the Board of Supervisors approve the King George Technology Center this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Dines, do you have anybody else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, once again, I will close public comment and we'll move on to board reports. Mr. Robotham.
We got a lot of people here, so let's move on. I don't have anything for the group this week.
Okay. Ms. Bender.
I want to thank everybody for coming out and speaking at the podium. And I know I listen and I read all the emails that are sent. So I do appreciate your not giving up, because a lot of people in this community feel that we don't listen. And I know I listen to you. So please continue to come out and speak, because that's the only way that change or anything happens. If you come out and speak, don't stay behind the doors and think nobody hears you, because we do hear you. But I do want to bring up, I'll try to keep my it very short, but I do want to mention something, and I have to give a shout out to Mr. Stewart in his role as a state senator and Delegate Hillary Pugh Kent. I approached them this past summer about introducing a bill. As some of you know, I have celiac disease, which means I can't eat wheat, barley, or rye. And I have some other issues that have come up that has made it very important that I have to know the ingredients, especially in drugs or vitamins or minerals or vaccines. And so I was very appreciative that they agreed to introduce a bill, and I want to read it to you and why it's very important, especially for those that might have allergies, or as in life that you might develop these allergies, because I developed my allergy 3 years ago. So my whole life I could eat things and now I can't anymore. So why this bill is important, it's Senate Bill number 486. You can look it up. I'm going to read part of it. It's dietary supplements, ingredient disclosure for gluten disclaimer. For purpose of this section, the active ingredient means any dietary ingredient intended to provide nutritional or psychological effect. Dietary supplement means a product intended to supplement the diet that contains one or more dietary ingredients, including vitamins, herbs, or other botanicals, amino acids, or other substances that is intended for ingestion in tablet, capsule, powder, or liquid form. Inactive ingredients, and this is very important because people don't understand. You have a tea bag. A tea bag could have wheat in it, and it's the bag that has the wheat in it. A vitamin could be the capsule they put it in. The vaccine could be the binding agent or what preserves it. And when a doctor brings it up, it only lists the active ingredients that are actually contained in a vaccine, a mineral, or a vitamin. They don't tell you how it was produced or if it has a capsule that might have wheat in it. And that's the most important thing. An active ingredient means any component of a dietary supplement other than an active ingredient, including, I'm probably mispronouncing this, excipients, fillers, binders, flavorings, colorings, preservatives, coatings, or processing aids. No person shall manufacture, distribute, sell, or offer for sale in the Commonwealth a dietary supplement unless the product contains a clear, legible, and conspicuous label listing all active ingredients and inactive ingredients contained in the product. No person shall manufacture, distribute, sell, or offer for sale in the Commonwealth a dietary supplement that contains gluten unless the product contains a clear, legible, and conspicuous disclaimer separate from the list of active ingredients and inactive ingredients that states it contains gluten. And so far, it went through the, believe it or not, how contentious the legislature has been. It went through unanimous through the Senate. It is now in the House. And I hope that it makes it through because it's really important, because it sounds so silly, but it's real. For those of us that have the allergy or might have, people that have peanut allergy, shellfish allergy, you wouldn't realize how much wheat is in everything. So I do want to formally thank Senator Stewart and Delegate Hillary Puquette for having a positive bill in there, and I hope it makes it through. So I just wanted, and I teased them, I wanted them to call it the Binder bill, but as Senator Stewart said, they don't do that in Virginia. But I do want to formally thank them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stroud?
Thanks, sir. So as far as reports, on the 4th, I attended the Bay Consortium Workforce Development Board meeting, and which it was good. They do good things. You can go to the website, www.vcwbay.com, but they're planning on extending some of their support to King George this year. But also for people in the area that are looking for jobs, they post jobs and help you with jobs, help people get jobs. So you can go to the website. I've had a number of people reach out to me, even here tonight, that has mentioned our support for the Second Amendment sanctuary. And we spoke about that last November. King George is a Second Amendment sanctuary. Everybody here supports the Second Amendment sanctuary status. And I would like to offer to the other members of the board that we just republish that, our support for that.
Maybe you have the county attorney draw up a declaration that this board can sign, those willing to do so. It's the will.
I'll second that motion, sir.
We have a motion on the floor properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? I didn't think so. Motion carried.
So thanks everybody that's involved with that, and appreciate you reaching out. And thirdly, because of the conversation that's been here tonight regarding the data center, today a bill was passed that, part of the concern is the data center people spoke about is the cost of electricity. And a bill was passed today in Virginia that helps with that because it's going to require data centers to share the cost of developing electricity, so to take some of that burden off the citizens. So that's a good thing. It's not that more can't be done, and I know that people are working for more to be done, but if possible, I'd ask the county attorney to speak to that. If you could, sir.
Yes, sir. It was in a bill that was carried by Senator Lucas. I don't know if anybody has on the House side, but it now requires data centers to pay for the substations that they create as a result of them citing. There was also another bill, and I know we had a little bit of this discussion last time. The SCC is looking at a secondary class. There was a bill today that directs them to consider data centers as a secondary class. That's a little farther down the road, but we are moving in the right direction because currently the ratepayers are paying for essentially all the infrastructure. So this is going to make a difference.
Thank you, sir. So for the people that spoke tonight, appreciate the comments. I know some people traveled from outside the county to come here and speak. I think that there are a number of people that I wish would have came tonight that have spoken to me and have not about the data center. So hopefully that they call in during public comment if we have that. So that's all I'm going to go for now, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Metz.
First off, again, I'll thank everybody that came out to speak tonight. Real quick on the report. So Friday, I did have a chance discussion with a resident about, and we discussed transportation options for people with disabilities, or really the lack thereof of transportation options for people with disabilities. So I like to say people with superpowers. So I'll probably talk with Matt, but I know that's been a topic over the past, and at some point we will probably need to address it. It would not a lot of options right now within the community for that. So that was that's it.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you for participating in your community. I always appreciate that. As far as the data center issue goes tonight, we'll be talking about it. I have just as many people come up to me and tell me that they're for it as I do that come up to me and tell me they're against it. So you'll have both sides of the coin, and people say you don't listen, but there's always going to be someone who feels that way. You're always heard. Just because someone doesn't do what you want them to do doesn't mean they didn't listen. I mean, they still heard you. I hear you. As far as some of the electrical bill issues and things like that, I think people are already feeling the heat of our electricity going up in King George County, and we don't have a data center. And the reason why is because we're footing the bill for every data center in the state of Virginia. Whether we get a data center or not, your electric bill is going to go up until they're taking measures now to make sure. Even Trump is now working on something too on the national level to squall those things. But the reason why your power bills are going up, they always go up this time of year because it's winter and they crank it up on you a little bit. But they're going to go up. If Caroline County gets a data center, your power bill is going to go up. If they get one in Bath County, your power bill is going to go up. They're spreading it across the board for all the consumers to pick the bill up on it. That's just the way it is. So when data centers come here and they say things from the podium like this isn't going to directly make King George's electric bill go higher, they're speaking the truth. It's not directly, it's going to get spread out across everywhere. Thank you, everyone that came out and spoke. And Ken, you had beat me to the Second Amendment thing. We tried to we've already acknowledged it a few times, and we keep getting correspondence, so I just felt like it was a good time just to put it in writing and just make a proclamation on that. But thank you again for participating.
Well done. All right. Thank you. All right. I'll be quick. So like you said, I'm kind of recapping the last couple of weeks here. So I had a school budget meeting with and some CIP discussion. It was one of those two versus two kind of thing, or not 2 and 2. Let's put it that way, because I think we had a very cordial meeting. We talked about the school budget, some of the capital improvement programs that they're looking at, and got to get a feel for Dr. Boyd with what he's trying to do with the budget, where he wants to go, and I'm pretty happy with what I've heard so far. There's a lot of details to be ironed out, but so far I think they're moving in a good direction. So I appreciate the school board reaching out to us for that. Met with the FAMPO meeting, did that one online. Had a joint meeting with the Planning Commission this past week. That was online available. Hopefully some of y'all were able to dial into that and hear some of the conversations. The CIP prioritization meeting was all part of that as well. Had an interesting meeting tonight. I got to meet with Congressman Vindman and his aide. During that conversation, I was able to ask him for help with a few things. I did not want to inundate him with a whole bunch of stuff, but I chose 3 things that I thought were challenging but feasible. And admittedly, I swung for the fences. I asked for $10 million on each of the 3 things. The first one was helping us equip and outfit the VOTEC building that we've committed to build. His response to that was a kind of a mild chuckle. And he's like, I hate to tell you, but our entire budget for the whole 15 counties that I represent is $15 million. So he did point us in a direction where we can request a grant and maybe get $1 million of that. So that's better than nothing. Aim for the fences and maybe we'll get a double. The other thing I asked him for was $10 million to help us with some of the projects that we're working on with the Service Authority. We talked a little bit about that. I'm going to send them the files that I got from Mr. Hamilton, the specifics of what we're trying to accomplish. One thing he kind of shut down immediately. He can't give us a grant that will pay off the bond that we took out earlier, or actually last year. But there are other grants that we can use for that. But the things that he has access to won't support that. But there are other projects that we're trying to do that he might be able to help us with. And then finally, I asked for money to help with the refurbishment of the Ralph Bunch School to turn that into a museum. And he was sort of non-committal. I don't think we're going to get money on that, but I am going to continue to pull the string and see what we can do. But anyway, that was a different meeting. Haven't had the pleasure of doing that as a board member just yet. Let's see what else. Obviously, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, mostly about road maintenance still. Let's see what else. So once again, thanks everybody for coming out tonight for the public comments. I'm not going to rehash the stuff that my colleagues have already hit, but I do want to address the team mom. Ms. Lovell, thank you for the comments always. Just a couple things. We haven't raised taxes in 2 years. We're keeping that promise and trying to keep them low as much as we can. It's getting harder and harder, but we have not raised taxes in 2 years. We have made progress in paying down the debt. Still got a long way to go. We inherited a ton of debt, but we've made a huge dent in that so far. Transparency, I don't know how we can be any more transparent. We had town hall meetings. I posted an executive summary after each one of these meetings for the people that don't want to take the time to listen to the YouTube or show up. But it is what it is. We're trying to get the word out as much as possible. Just some people, they just don't have time or don't have interest, but we are really trying to engage people. I'm talking even one-on-one, meetings and stuff like that. So wherever people want to chat, we're happy to join them. Don't think that just because we don't vote your way that we don't listen. It was said earlier that we hear you. We really do. But there's 29,000 people in the county, and we get emails, phone calls, face-to-face on all sides. We represent everybody, not just the folks that show up here. Admittedly, subconsciously, I give more weight to the people that actually take the time to show up. I can't help it. But there are a lot of people out there, and we represent all of them. So everybody gets heard. Just the vote doesn't always go your way. And I'm sorry for that, but we do listen. I promise you that. And then the last thing, this may not be the appropriate forum for it, but I've already hit it once before and nobody yelled at me, so I'll try it again. We've got a referendum coming up on the 21st of April. I've seen the language for that. It's very deceptive. I told you before that I wouldn't tell you how to vote, and I won't tell you how to vote tonight, but I will tell you how to interpret that language. If you want to maintain status quo, where the districts are designed such that there's about 6 to 5 Democrat to Republican districts, then vote no for it. If you want to completely change the entire way our state is laid out in terms of districts, and their published goal is to establish 10-1 in favor of Democrats over Republicans, then vote yes for the referendum amendment. Please, above all, get out and vote. Exercise your voice. Exercise your voice. But the interpretation of that language is, if you want status quo, vote no. If you want to completely upheave things and put it all completely in favor of the Democrat Party, vote yes. That's all I got tonight. Go for it.
I usually don't do one more thing, but you kind of grazed over that. We had a meeting with the Planning Commission. And if you haven't had a chance to go watch that, it's one of those extra meetings that we do. And for the first time that I know of in this county, we have laid out a plan for every building project that's up right now. So when we stepped on the board, somebody would come before us, one of our engineers, and go, we need this much money for this well. And we're like, when did this start? Well, 2 years ago, this project kicked in and we knew we were going to have to pay it this day. So we didn't know anything. But every building, from building schools to building VOTEC to Ralph Bunche Historical Society to what to do with the old courthouse, all that stuff is laid out and pretty much how the board sees it. Now, some of that stuff is going to be changing and when this should take place. But this board, for the first time, is planning for the next 10 years. Doesn't mean the next board's got to do it, but the next board's going to have to actively go in and take it off. So constituents can go, why are you taking that off and why are you now taking care of that problem? So we kind of get an idea. What's that help with? Helps with Mr. Smolnick and the board as we budget and plan for the future and the money that we're going to need to do certain projects and take on and really just get a grasp on the grasp of our county. But just to go back and look at it, I just encourage you to do so.
Nope. All good. All right. Thanks very much. So that's it for the board reports. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor, properly seconded. Do we have any discussion? All right. Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Ms. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Constitutional officers. Sheriff, come on up, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just kind of go over 2025 in review for you. In your packets, you should have already had this report. There are a couple things that I'm going to add to it that you didn't see. So I'll just do a real quick overview for you. We did 2 events in 2025, which dealt with the Youth Criminal Justice Academy. That deals with 12 to 18-year-olds where they come to the office and we do a simulated academy for them, and they get a feel for that. We participated in the opening of the new courthouse, and public safety was able to switch over to the new radio system. We did the polar plunge 2 weekends ago, and Sergeant Shriver was able to raise over $12,000 for Virginia Special Olympics for that event. We will have another event coming up here in, I think, towards the end of May, which will be our torch run. That'll be coming up for you. Some of the activities for the Sheriff's Office, total number of calls was 50,216. Total arrests were 1,894 off of warrants. Total citations were 3,923. Total DUI arrests were 100. Drug arrests, 31. Traffic stops, 5,510. Civil papers served, 7,052. Prisoner transports in Virginia, 330 adults, 12 juveniles. Extraditions out of state, 24. Mental transports, 39. Criminal indictments, 291. In circuit court, the bailiffs had 550 criminal cases, 303 civil cases. And King George combined courts was 7,609. Juvenile domestic relations courts was 1,486. My criminal investigation division handled 131 reportable cases. Search warrants and administrative subpoenas were 161. Adults charged was 130. Juveniles were 6. Our flock cameras that we have, we recovered 14 stolen vehicles, 7 stolen plates. We recovered 6 missing persons and 10 wanted people off of the information from those cameras. My commercial, and this is information that wasn't part of this report, my commercial vehicle data is my commercial vehicle officers that inspect the vehicles, the commercial vehicles. We did 164 inspections. 53 vehicles were put out of service. 19 drivers were put out of service, and 81 summonses issued for various violations that they found while they did their inspections. On a good note, a German Shepherd was surrendered to animal control that we are training now to be a explosives dog. So that'll be an addition to our canine corps, which will give us a total of three canines. We completed our Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission Term 2, compliance of all 192 standards set forth by the commission, and all of my DCJS required in-service training objectives to include coursework and firearms qualifications were met by our deputies in 2025 to maintain their law enforcement and/or court security civil process certifications. So that's a real quick overview. Obviously, there's a lot more in the report if you want to bear down and read all those, but entertain any questions that you may have now based on what the information I provided.
Any questions? Excellent report. Thank you, sir.
All right. Y'all have a
Excellent
good
work.
evening. Thank you.
All right. I believe we are over to you.
All right, thank you. We will now do the Board of Directors portion of the meeting. And can I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Mr. Solons?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Robotham?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. First up is our monthly presentation from Bowdoin Environmental Services. Mark and Bowdoin.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Good to be here with you tonight. So as always, we'll start with water for our operations overview, and we'll look at the month of January. All right, so we had an issue that we needed a representative from Tonka. It's the water manufacturer, not the toy trucks that you played with when you were kids. But Tonka is a manufacturer of water treatment equipment. And we had an issue with some of their specific PLC communication computers, essentially, that run the plant. It's a fly-by-wire plant, and they came in and assisted us with troubleshooting those communication issues. We replaced the chemical injector at the Arnold system, and we'll follow that up with all monthly bacteriological samples were collected and passed for the month of January for all of the systems. On the wastewater side, we're still kind of working through this, but we have some significant issues relating to the Dahlgren equalization basin, and that is causing some treatment inhibition. And what is essentially happening is the flow path that, as designed, allows the influent wastewater to sit in the EQ basin longer than it should. And what happens with inadequate air, inadequate treatment in the equalization basin is not necessarily part of our treatment process. It's essentially a lagoon that allows for surge capacity of the wastewater plant. So during storm events or during high flow events, the equalization basin will take the brunt of the influent flow and allow the metering of the influent flow into the wastewater treatment plant. It's a standard practice, but the way that things are designed here at the Dahlgren plant, it does create certain issues. And so we're working with Dan and his team. We're looking at setting up an event, a cleaning event of that equalization basin, and looking at providing adequate mixing in that EQ basin. And so these problems will be mitigated going further. But we do have issues relating to ammonia and nitrogen as a result of that problem.
Mark, just with that EQ basin, the ice did not help, correct?
That's correct. The EQ basin did freeze over. Nitrification, as you can see in Perkins Corner and Oakland Park, nitrification is a very finicky process, and so it's very temperature dependent, or temperature affects it. And so just like Oakland Park and Perkins Corner, we had the same issue at Dahlgren. Temperature played a major factor in the issues that we saw at Dahlgren.
Because in my time on the board, we always, if it's very cold or snowy or weather does affect it. And so just wanted the public to understand that, especially when we have these weather events, that these things can happen.
That's right. That's exactly right. So as I said, Perkins Corner and Oakland Park, we had issues meeting our limits for TKN, which is a species of nitrogen. And what drives the removal of that TKN, it's the nitrification process, and then subsequently the denitrification process. And so low temperatures did affect those two treatment plants. Hopyard and Fairview, they are of better design, a better treatment style, treatment type. They remained unaffected by the temperature, and they are operating well within their permit limits. So happy to take any questions relating to our report that we provide each month, and answer any questions that you might have.
Anybody have any questions? Any questions? Thank you always for coming. I appreciate it.
Let's make a comment.
Go ahead, Dan.
The Trump mark here. Just to be clear, the $4 million in bond money that was sold and collected, I believe last August, that money is specifically focused on upgrades to the Dahlgren wastewater plant, and we're working with Bowman Engineering. They had prepared reports you all saw last summer, and we now have a plan basically to complete a number of upgrades there. One in particular is to work on correcting the issues with the equalization basin or the storage lagoon or whatever we're going to call it. Also upgraded blowers, upgraded aeration systems. There's a number of technical things that are going to be addressed with that money, but that's what it was specifically collected for, and that's what we're in the process of beginning to spend it. And also I just want to point out that the issues with wastewater treatment through this weather are not unique to King George County or the Dahlgren wastewater plant. These are issues that have been seen all over, I will just say, the central portion of Maryland and Virginia, and areas that have been impacted by this extreme cold. So I don't want people to be alarmed. We can't always operate these facilities within the design parameters, specifically old ones that are 30 or 40 years old and lack some of the technology that we could be doing better with. But I just wanted to sort of add that to Mark's report.
Well, thank you very much. Because you're going to be up next on the next one. This is the MOU agreement with Dahlgren Innovation Hub, or Dahlgren West, as some know. And this was very important, and it's taken a little part to get on the agenda because I wanted to make sure that this was very transparent to the public, because I know in some other projects across the United States, and especially around us, that these MOUs are kept with NDAs, and I hate NDAs. So I wanted to make sure that this was in the public so everybody could view it. And so now it's here, and Dan, take away.
You're putting me on the spot. So this is a 4-page memorandum of understanding. It was agreed upon at the last meeting. It would be circulated publicly. As I said, on the February 3rd meeting, I am not in a position to approve or disapprove development in this county. This is a memorandum of understanding between the Service Authority and a potential development known as Dahlgren West or Dahlgren Innovation Hub. And this agreement has been, I think, in the works for probably 6 months, but basically it just makes, well, it's a memorandum of understanding. It's not a binding contract, but it does talk about what the Service Authority will commit in terms of capacity and offer to this particular development project. We're excited about it. As I said, also on February 3rd, this particular project is not going to receive anything from the Service Authority that is going to have any impact on your water resources for cooling of this particular facility. It is going to have potable water and likely wastewater that comes to our collection system. I believe at the moment the agreement stipulates that we'll provide up to 100,000 gallons per day, which is about 0.1% of our capacity on the Dahlgren system. That's the same amount of potable water that could potentially be offered to any other facility of any other type, be it a warehouse, a school, whatever it is. The demands of usage here are not out of the ordinary. And one of the other things that's identified in this agreement is that we will provide potentially all of the discharge from the Dahlgren wastewater plant to this particular developer to be used for cooling water if they so choose. Again, this would all be paid for by the developer. There would be no impact to the existing customers or your rates. They would pay an industrial rate for water, and they will not be charged for the wastewater, which we'd otherwise be discharging to the Potomac River after it's treated. And there's a possibility they may or not even be interested in the quote purple pipe or the gray water coming out of the plant. So this memorandum of understanding, I know you've all had for 2 weeks. I don't think anybody in the crowd wants me to read this. I'm happy to field any questions there are about it. I will say they have also proffered to the Service Authority an existing 200,000 gallon elevated storage tank, which I believe was built 20 years ago or so, on the property that's located between 301 South and the Claydale neighborhood on 206. The tank has sat there empty. There is some distribution piping associated with that, but it would be inspected and made sure to be in reasonable, I'll say, acceptable working condition before it would be deeded to us as part of this agreement. And other than that, I don't really think there are a lot of terms that we need to go through. Again, there would be no impacts other than the capacity we'd be designating for any other potential development, which, as I said, is 100,000 gallons per day maximum. And I know they are looking forward to hopefully having this agreement approved, and then eventually there would be a subsequent water agreement. I know it's been reviewed by Mr. Stewart. I don't want to speak to his approval or disapproval of it, but he is the one that recommended that the water agreement and the memorandum of understanding be two different documents. So any comments that have come in from the board members since I shared it with you, I did receive some comments from one individual, can certainly be addressed with that water agreement. That's really all I have to offer on that, unless there are questions.
And one other thing I want to point out, they also in their offer to help us connect the dog run system to the courthouse system, which is part of our interconnection and push towards the whatever are in the alternative water source. So I just wanted to point that out. Is there any questions? Mr. Metz?
I just wanted to confirm that I heard it correctly, that the developer is paying all of the infrastructure costs for this.
That would be correct. Of course, the service authority will establish engineering standards, review the proposed project, but any extension of water main or sewer pipe would be 100% funded by the developer, would be at no cost to the existing ratepayers on any system. And to be clear, because I've been questioned about this, all the ratepayers on the service authority, no matter which system you're connected to, are paying the same rates. There seems to be some misunderstanding that people in Hop Yard think they're paying a different rate. That is not the case, but anyway, and it would be to our advantage to eventually interconnect these systems. It creates redundancy. If we lose a well, if we lose a source, which I'll address in a minute when I talk about the Potomac River and the pollution incident, but this would be to our advantage. They would be entitled to recoup some of that cost if another developer connected to pipe they had paid to install. They would get a prorated portion back. But again, this does not come out of the ratepayers' pockets. And in any water or sewer utility that I have ever been associated with, unlike the electrical dynamic that you described earlier, existing ratepayers do not fund improvements for development, period. That's just not the way business is done.
Just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Stewart?
Madam Chair, I heard Dan say something about, I know the infrastructure is paid by the developer. I don't think whether or not the service authority is going to charge for the purple water or not is addressed in here. Excuse me?
We addressed that in the water services agreement.
I think Dan mentioned that it was going to be free. I'm not sure that is actually addressed in this document. I just wanted to clarify the record on that.
If I said free, and I probably misspoke. At this time, there is not a market for gray water as a commodity. I would love for there to be one.
I just didn't want to promise something we couldn't deliver. Was all.
I think the agreement states that they will pay the applicable rate at the time they make the connection. We are going to be talking about a rate study. We're going to have a rate study, I hope. And one of the things we need to correct about our existing rates is that there's really only one rate. There is not a residential rate, a commercial rate, an industrial rate. That needs to be fixed. And of course, these folks would be an industrial customer, but they're not getting any special deal with respect to that. So apologize if I created any confusion. Thank you.
Mr. Robotham?
Sure. So, Mr. Hamilton, in an effort for transparency here, was there anything missing or lacking from the MOU that was cut that you felt that may have been in benefit to the service authority?
Not to my knowledge. Again, this document has been drafted and prepared and negotiated prior to my tenure here, which began last summer. I don't know how long it's been debated, so I can't speak to whatever versions I never saw. But no, there was some language I had concern about maintenance of the, what we'll call the purple pipe, the reused wastewater pipe, that, the service authority shouldn't have to be responsible for maintaining it once it's installed. The developer agreed to that in principle. It may not be specifically addressed here other than in some somewhat broad verbiage, but that would be clarified in a water agreement, in my opinion.
Got it. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Other question I have concerning, we say data center buildings. And I want to ensure when we say data center buildings, that's not strictly buildings that have data center equipment in them. We're referring to the whole campus when we say data center buildings, to include admin, security, storage warehouses if they need, water outside for a lawnmower to wash it off. Something.
So just so everybody understands, this is not a contract, and we're not bound by this. This is just two parties entering into what they believe their understanding is, and it will be memorialized later in much greater detail with much greater definition. But I think everybody understands that anything there is an accessory use to a data center. And it very clearly says, and I think everybody understands again, they can only use potable water for the buildings there. None of the good water, for lack of a better way to say it, can be used for cooling, only potentially the gray water. I'm comfortable with it, but we can revise it if you like. But this is a preliminary step prior to actually everybody entering into a contract.
Understood. As long as as long as you're comfortable and the team's comfortable, that's good. My formalities with MOUs is a little different in the day job, so I just want to clarify.
Just want to add that I think it's becoming essentially industry standard, at least in Maryland, where I'm from, and here in Virginia now, that data centers should not be offered the opportunity to use treated potable water for cooling water, and it's generally just not acceptable. There is not enough of that resource. It costs too much to treat it to comply with the Safe Drinking Water Act and test for the 90 or so things that we test for it to be used carelessly. The day is going to come when we can't use it for fire protection, and we're going to need to use that recycled wastewater for fire protection, but that's going to involve a whole other set of pipes under the ground and a different price. But when I say that day is going to come, hopefully not in my lifetime, but certainly in California and other places where there is not as much water available, that is the reality. So again, the potable water we provide to you would be provided to them just like it would be to a school or a warehouse or any other facility for people to drink, for people to consume, for people to make coffee, take showers, use the restrooms, whatever, but it will not be for cooling. There could potentially be a time where we give them an initial amount of water to charge their cooling system, and they would pay for that, but it would be a very, very small amount.
Do I have any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the MOU agreement with Dahlgren Innovation Hub and the King George County Service Authority.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Robotham? Aye. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next up is the King George County Service Authority surplus property sale sealed bid submittal results. That's a lot of S's.
All right, I know you don't feel right when I spend more time talking than board members and board of supervisors members, but there was a public sale of surplus property. There were two particular properties in this case that were for sale that are currently and likely in the distant future not of any usefulness to the service authority itself. One of them was 0.1 or 1/10 of an acre in Fairview Beach, I believe. The other one was 1/2 of an acre of a lot that formerly had some structures on it in the Presidential Lake subdivision. We agreed 1 month ago, I believe it would have been in the January 17th or thereabouts meeting, to have a public sale and solicit bids. We made that announcement again on the February 3rd agenda, and I reminded folks the bids were due by the 10th. The 10th was last Tuesday. A week ago today at 4 o'clock, we received only 2 bids. No bids for the property in Presidential Lakes. I had received some interest from people about bidding on that. I did not get any sealed bid or other inquiry at all. And we did receive 2 bids for the 1/10 of an acre property, both from residents of King George County. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to name them, but one of the bids was for $7,000. The other bid was for $10,001. Kind of like Jeopardy, I guess. Maybe 10,000 wasn't enough. Had to throw the extra dollar in there. But as I said, both those potential bidders live in the county. We did not receive any bids after the deadline of 4 p.m. last Tuesday. I didn't hear a peep until last Friday. I understand the chair may have received an inquiry from somebody that lives in Presidential Lakes who was upset or discouraged because there was a sale and they weren't made aware of it. That's unfortunate, but I have not spoken or communicated with anybody about it myself. And so I would recommend that you proceed with the sale of the 1/10 of an acre for the $10,001 to the appropriate bidder, presuming nobody has a problem with that.
I just wanted to add for the Fairview Beach lot, it's like a triangle, and it used to have a water tank on it many years ago, and it's gone. And with that property, correct me, Mr. Hamilton, is an easement because there's a water line under there. And so,
correct. There would be an easement. I can't say it may be water and sewer, but it's a utility easement. We have the use of it either way.
And that was very plain in the public announcement.
The plan of the bidder is to potentially park guest cars there, is my understanding. And of course, that's not a condition of any sale, but that's what I'm told.
All right, so I'm going to ask, can I have a motion to on this matter?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We accept the high bid on the Fairview Beach property. And on the other property, we look for an opportunity, maybe our next tax sale or something, to roll that forward into our next opportunity.
I have a clarifying question on that. For that property, did that bring up further discussion from the board? And Mr. Stewart, could I have some input? Because the property is very unique because it still has a building on it and some slabs. We did pay for the water tanks to be removed, so our options for further.
You might want to amend the motion slightly from Mr. Metz to accept the high bid for the piece for $10,001 and authorize Mr. Hamilton to proceed to close on that transaction. And then separately, you may want to just consider resubmitting the other property for sale. Perhaps you want to have a longer time to get that word out, allow people to evaluate it. Sometimes when you buy these properties, you have to have time to do due diligence to figure out, what's going on with it. And maybe it was just too short of a time because it does have improvements of some sort on it.
Right. Let me just amend my motion just to stick with the one. I'll make a motion that we accept the high bid on the Fairview Beach property.
Second.
And authorize Mr. Hamilton to close the transaction.
Second.
We have motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? And with that, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Mr. Davis? Mr.
Aye.
Robotham? Chair votes aye, motion carries. And so, do you want to make a motion on the other property? Just have Mr. Hamilton re-advertise it and give a little longer time, because maybe that will.
I just go with, there's overhead with any advertisement that goes into it. It made sense when there were 2 properties. I suggest you get with Mr. Smolnick here, see if there's anything coming in the future. Are we in any rush to dispose of it?
No, I don't believe so. I think the issue is potentially the partial structures that may remain on the property present some liability in the event that children are playing on them or something like that. I don't think there's an immediate hazard. I don't think there's something we need to go out there and put a fence around. I think the idea of a tax sale, that was kind of my comment, is, hey, let's just not pay the taxes and let it go for sale. But we don't pay taxes anyway, so there's not going to be any tax sale on that one. Is there any reason I couldn't potentially contact a real estate agent and have somebody help us market it?
No, don't do that.
Mr. Davis?
Have we reached out to the HOA of Presidential Lakes?
They, in fact, or one of their members contacted me and indicated that they were interested.
Okay.
And then
That would have been the first.
not respond to what they knew. I mean, I specifically emailed them and told them the terms of sale. So I suspect, I don't want to make any judgments, but maybe they were hoping we would give it to them. I don't know.
I would say I make a motion that we relist the property for a period of 60 days.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion.
Effective
properly-
today, can we clarify? Like,
You're going to continue to take sealed bids on it.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
okay.
All right, we have a motion properly seconded. Do I have any other discussion? All right, I'll do roll call vote. Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Mr. Solons?
Aye.
Mr. Davis? Mr. Robotham?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, Mr. Hamilton, up for your general manager's report.
All right, I will try to make this as short as I can, but I do want to address the letter that Mr. Robotham, I believe it was a letter that you read regarding the Potomac River and the sewage spill from DC Water. So in fact, that particular letter, if I heard correctly, the individual referenced Arlington or Alexandria Renew. That is not the utility that operates the pipeline that is leaking. That utility is in fact DC Water, which provides potable water and sewage collection for the District of Columbia. That particular pipe that they use is located in Montgomery County. It also does receive sewage from the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, or WSSC, which is a place that I worked for 15 years prior to my tenure here. So I don't want there to just be any incorrections or misunderstandings about where that wastewater is coming from. The plant that goes to is Blue Plains, which is the largest wastewater treatment plant in the world, or at least it was. I think it still is. It also gets wastewater from Fairfax and some other counties in Northern Virginia. So there are all people who are potentially dumping wastewater, and that is untreated wastewater, into that particular pipeline, which was transmitting it down the Potomac River to Blue Plains. And obviously they're having a problem. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I did some very similar work at WSSC to what they're doing now, and it's pretty stressful. In any event, I understand that the desire for people to be held accountable. I will be clear about this with respect to King George. We use exclusively groundwater here. The water resource that we're pumping from is aquifers that are 4, 5, 6, 700 feet below your feet, under the Earth's surface. That water, I know this from scientific research, is approximately 20,000 years ago. It was a raindrop falling to the surface of the Earth. So it's a very pristine source. It's not to say it couldn't have some natural pollutants or it couldn't be polluted, but it's not immediately impacted by surface water. So the spill that's currently happening on the Potomac River, I'm sure you've heard on the news, they repeatedly say it doesn't impact our drinking water because WSSC and DC Water's intakes on the Potomac, which they are using for a source, are upstream of the spill, and the water clearly is not flowing upstream. It's not tidal there. So I don't want anybody in King George to have any inkling that we are under threat because of that pollution event. That doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that the watermen aren't impacted who are fishing or oystering or crabbing. I'm a waterman in Calvert County, Maryland. I'm very sensitive to this. And it's unfortunate, but there is no immediate threat to King George. And with regard to the rest of the details expressed in that letter, if you could forward it to me, I would be glad to prepare a response. And I don't know how I would get it to that individual. If anybody has questions about this, please feel free to contact me. I will tell you the honest truth or provide you scientific data to support what I'm telling you. It's not a problem now. Now, the state of Virginia's regulators are starting to look at pushing utilities in the Northern Neck and elsewhere off of our groundwater sources and onto surface water, such as the Rappahannock. I think that is suspect for this exact reason, because it's so susceptible to contamination. There was a diesel fuel spill in the James River yesterday from the filling of a battleship. 7,700 gallons went in the river. That's a water supply for folks down there. These are problems that we don't need. So again, our groundwater source isn't perfect, but it's very well protected. It's important that we pay attention to how we use our land here and take care of that resource. And I guess to go more into what should be my general manager's report, on the good news, I received an inquiry from a local Cub Scout troop who would like to have some education about water. I guess they don't get badges anymore. They call them adventurers, or they get little ribbons. We're going to do an outreach event for a Cub Scout group, assuming this all pans out, where I will give them an education. I'll bring in that little model I had here a month or two ago. We'll talk about the interrelation of groundwater and surface water, and then we'll give them a tour of the local water treatment plant. As I understand it, most of the Cub Scouts live in the Hop Yard neighborhood, but I would like to be able to make that offer to any school groups or senior citizen groups or League of Women Voters or whatever it is. If people have interest, I would like to be able to help educate them about the resource. So all that being said, again, with respect to the what's going on up in DC with the Potomac River, please, if you have questions, if you're at all confused, if you need more information, please reach out to me. Call the service authority, send me an email. I promise you I will respond hopefully within 24 hours to at least say, hey, I'm going to get back to you with more information. Beyond that, as far as my report goes, I've talked enough this evening. We've only had 2 water leaks so far this year. There have not been any since we met 2 weeks ago, and I didn't mention this 2 weeks ago because I'm worried that when the thaw comes is when the leaks are going to come, and we're here on the thaw. So I'm hopeful that we're going to have an easy couple weeks. Other than that, I've had a couple of meetings that have been significant. One in particular, I've been working with our partners through in Bowdoin and had some preliminary conversations with Stantec, who's a very well-known industry engineer. We have 4 water withdrawal permits out of our 9 systems that need to be renewed by January of 2027. Those permit applications are due in June of this year, and the amount of information and data that we're expected to require, I can't possibly do alone. So I've partnered up with Bowdoin, at least preliminarily. We're reviewing some information and a potential proposal to have them help us submit that application or those 4 applications. In fact, one of them is an individual from Stantec, Kathy, I know, who serves on that Northern Virginia Regional Groundwater Board you're on, Mr. Early. So that is happening. I've also had a meeting with our financial advisors from Davenport Financial, and another group of folks from Stantec. They are preparing a proposal to do a rate study for us. They have done rate studies for probably 20 counties in Virginia and the Commonwealth, everybody from Fairfax Water to Loudoun Water to, I believe, Westmoreland. They've done a lot of this type of work. They have a lot of the knowledge already that we would need to be able to help compare our rates to surrounding utilities rates and make sure that we're looking at apples and apples. And again, this is not a premise to saying we need to raise our rates. But one of my concerns is the reference to the debt fee, which you see on your bill. And I don't know whose idea it was to call that a debt fee. I know it's created a lot of bad feeling long before I ever came and sat in this room with you folks. It should appropriately be called a base rate. And if you look at your other utilities, or if you've ever seen a water and sewer bill from another utility, they all have base rates, and many of them are far greater than ours. That particular fee that you pay, it's called a debt fee. It's stipulated in the bylaws what that fee will be. It is not directly related to a financial calculation based on our debt service. So I just want to be clear about that. That's one of the things we'll be able to elaborate more on if and when we get this rate study completed, which needs to be done, in my opinion. So other than that, I think I've probably spent enough of your agenda time this evening. I know there are many more important issues, so I'd be happy to answer any questions. I appreciate everybody that's here, appreciate all your support. I know you folks in Hop Yard, there were a lot of complaints about pressure. I've had one in the last 2 weeks, so hopefully that problem has resolved itself, and there's some things I'm going to be able to do to help fix that as well. But any questions?
All right, before I get to, I know Mr. Stewart had something he needed to interject.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just want to clarify, Mr. Hamilton's right. There apparently is no threat to our drinking water, but I would encourage everyone to follow the Virginia Department of Health website. There is a stay away from the river warning because it can make you sick. And the last I heard, it was up The E. coli was 1,000 times greater than what is determined safe exposure by the EPA, and there's MRSA and other things. I didn't want people to misconstrue drinking water as
It's
safe.
not the time to eat fish.
Just
The Potomac River. This is not the time to go swimming. You don't want to have an open wound. You don't want to have your dog drinking it. It's not.
Just go to the Virginia Department of Health website, and they'll give you all of the pertinent information so that you'll be okay.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Mr. Metz?
That was the clarification I was actually looking to get, was that, yeah, from a drinking water, I'm very worried about our watermen. We have a lot of people here that crab. We've depended on shellfish a little bit further east of here, I guess. Did have a question. Right now on our waste treatment, are we testing for PFAS materials?
I believe we were started this year. Mr. Bowden could tell me better. I think we were mandated this current year to test our solids for PFAS. There's not been a lot of groundwater sampling for PFAS that I'm aware of yet, although I think there's been some preliminary sampling by the state, but Mark probably can tell you better.
Certainly. So we are testing for groundwater for PFAS. We have to conduct a series of testing before 2027. That is ongoing. And for wastewater, that is still being fleshed out from DEQ point of view. There have been other facilities that have been requested by DEQ as a suspected contributor, or there's industry that is involved in their collection system that may produce PFAS. But at this time, we haven't been requested from DEQ to test for PFAS in our wastewater treatment. Only in drinking water.
And Mark, I'm also believe that there is only just in the last year passed a law where there's actually a health standard set for PFAS.
There is a health standard passed by EPA.
It's in the parts per billion.
I bring it up because, we will continue to get these additional requirements. This is a good one, right? Mr. Senator Stewart over here and some of his counterparts shepherded bills in both the Senate and the House that look very promising for preventing PFAS on our farmers' lands. So, but when you back that up in the chain of custody, it comes right through our wastewater treatment plant, and we will have to bear some of that cost of testing that before it goes to biosolids.
Sure. Now, I will point a clarification. We have no biosolids production at our wastewater treatment plants. All of the solids gets transported to the landfill.
So we're using landfill.
Correct.
That's good news too. All right, thank you.
That's an important point, because if we were not able to land apply it at the landfill here in King George County, we would potentially have to pay to have it trucked somewhere and land applied. And if there are laws related to the amount of PFAS in that sludge, that could be an issue. And just to be clear, if anybody has a question about this, the PFAS is coming from the surface water and some of the groundwater, but it is a man-made chemical. We didn't put it there. It's not in your drinking water. If it is, it's in very, very, very small amounts, but it bioaccumulates in the wastewater. So, the more of it's out there, that's where it's going to end up. So if we happen to find that we have high levels in the sludge, it's not because we're not doing something right with respect to the treatment process. The technology out there to test for things in the parts per billion and the parts per trillion are way out in front of the technology available to do the treatment. And there is treatment, but it's like incineration and it's expensive. So these are things we have to watch for.
Thank you.
We'll certainly let you know. I don't believe any of the groundwater testing that's been done that there's even been a detectable level. When you look at these lab reports, every different test you're running has a method detection level. And if it's below that, then they're just going to say NA, none available. So to the best of my knowledge, that's where we are now. But we'll have more data in a year because the testing is coming ahead of the health standard.
Wait, does anybody else have any questions? All right, with that, I will now go to secondary public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so that it can be properly included in the public record. Would anybody like to come up to speak? All right, is there anybody online, Mr. Dines?
No, Madam Chair.
Does anybody have any correspondence while we've been up here? No. All right, with that, I'll close secondary public comment. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I move that we adjourn the Board of Directors to Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the boardroom of the Rivercomb Building.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion properly second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. The Board of Directors is adjourned.
All right, we'll pick things back up with the Board of Supervisors. And first up is a public hearing. Item 02-09, application number Z-2025-00304. King George County Board of Supervisors will now hold a public hearing to receive public input regarding application number Z-2025-0034, Powhatan Road Solar, Larry Carr. I'll first ask for the staff report. I will then open the floor to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Testing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight. And if I mess up, don't tell Kelly, please. This is her staff report.
If you do mess up, only Senator Stewart will recognize it.
Representatives from the Powhatan Road Solar Farm LLC ESA applicant and Larry Carr Jr., property owner, have applied for a special exception permit to construct a medium-scale solar energy facility approximately 24 acres, zoned A1, located at 8375 Powhatan Road. Mr. Chairman and Board, y'all had a presentation a couple of weeks ago, so I'm going to try to be brief. Standards and procedures for review of special exception. The standards and procedures for the review of special exception permit are set forth in section 3-4-1 and 343 of the King George zoning ordinance. I'm going to go over the considerations. The King George zoning ordinance, Article 5, use matrix table, requires a special exception permit in the A1 zoning district for solar energy. The King George County zoning ordinance, section 778, lists performance standards applicable to solar energy medium-scale facilities. The application addresses compliance with each of these standards. The application states the project is sited on 24.34 acres of 158.02 acres agricultural parcel and participate in the Virginia Shared Solar Program, developing renewable energy to approximately 1,000 households, including guaranteed bill savings for low to moderate income subscribers. The facility prepares the parcel's rural and agricultural character by limiting ground disturbance, incorporating graze-ready design that supports continued grazing with around the fenced areas. The project occupies approximately 21% of the parcel, preserving the majority of the land for agriculture, recreation, and preservation. The project will connect to existing Dominion energy distribution system, providing upgrades to lines and substations. Grading will be minimalized, topsoil will be preserved and restored, and exit forest buffers will remain where feasible. The project will not cause any burden to county schools, water, sewer, or road systems. It will generate local tax revenue and subscriber savings and will advance state goals for energy, diversification, and land-based solar development. The subject property lies in the Rappahannock River Rural Development Area as designated in the comprehensive plan. A major goal of the comprehensive plan is to preserve, encourage, and sustain the rural character of King George County and non-primary settlement areas. One of the industrial land uses policies implementation strategies listed in the comprehensive plan is to ensure that all industrial uses provide adequate protection to adjacent existing land uses through techniques such as setbacks, landscaping, screening, noise, and controls and access controls. Performance standards for the solar energy, medium-scale facilities are the method by which the policy will be achieved. A goal of the utilities within the county is laid out in the comprehensive plan is to research, develop strategies to attract and support green energy, such as solar, wind, while balancing, preserving, and environmental resources. There are several aspects of this project that accomplish this goal to balance solar development with preservation of environmental resources. This application ordinance has visual impact analysis, community impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, traffic study, and decommissioning plan. If I'm going to go on, because you can read the rest of that. Comments from reviewing agencies. Staff sent the special exception permit application information to all county and state reviewing agencies, and their comments were addressed by the applicant throughout the review process. Agencies will be contacted for review and comment should the project proceed to the site plan stage. The Planning Commission considered the special exception application at a public hearing on December 9th, 2025, where they voted 6-1-1 to forward a favorable recommendation with the conditions to the King George County Board of Supervisors. Overall analysis and recommended draft conditions, staff has reviewed the special exception permit application and have found it to meet the requirements of King George County zoning ordinance. Staff has also found that the following proposed conditions will assist in addressing, protecting, and promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of King George County citizens. At this time, we'll have the applicant to come up for the application.
Thank you very much. I will make my presentation very brief as well, as Mr. Vaughn captured most of the very important points. But thank you, Chairman Solons and members of the Board of Supervisors again for the opportunity to present our Powhatan Road solar project as we respectfully request approval of our special exception permit. My name is Kara Romaine and I'm Project Development Manager of this project with ESA. Mostly tonight, I will just have a few slides directing the questions that we heard a few weeks ago. And of course, I will be available, as well as Justin will be available for any new questions or anything that may come up during public comments if needed to address. As Mr. Vaughn already said, we're proposing the solar project to be on 24 acres out of the 150-acre property, leaving the remainder of the property as is. Again, this is intended to be part of the Virginia Shared Solar Program, where Dominion Energy customers can sign up to a project like this and receive electricity bill savings. There's no upfront cost to those looking to sign up for a project like this. We recognize that stormwater management is a very important topic, and it came up in questions a few weeks ago and in meetings before. At the risk of repeating myself over and over again, but knowing how important it is, staff has conditioned us and state requires us to prepare a stormwater and erosion and sediment control plan that is much more robust than the one I have on the screen and costs upwards of $100,000 to complete, which is why we didn't do it for this public hearing. But knowing it's important, it has to be approved by the county and the state before we can start construction. The project components will not contain materials sourced from foreign adversaries. This is consistent with federal requirements surrounding sourcing equipment parts, similar to many materials used in traditional technology that we have every day. The materials found in the solar panels are not harmful to humans or animals or the groundwater. Okay, I didn't know if the sound was going to be on for this. But this is a short clip showing the pile removal process used by our geotechnical consultant. This is the same process that would be used during decommissioning and allows the ground to be restored to its original condition. And on the topic of decommissioning, staff has included a condition that any panels removed from service must be stored on site in a dry waste container until they are removed from the project. I included this here just as the topic of the project off Highway 13 came up a few weeks ago. So staff has already made sure to ensure that panels will not be laying on the ground. And we are in full agreement with that. Site access and traffic was also something that came up last meeting. I spoke with this district's VDOT representative as well as Kelly, and they both agreed that at this time, while traffic route does not need to be figured out at this moment in time, there is a condition that requires us to submit a traffic management plan, and mitigation measures will be developed by us and submitted to the county and VDOT for their review and input. Most importantly, if traffic issues arise during the construction of the project, we will have to consult with VDOT, and if any damages are done to the road, we are responsible for repairing those damages. And just to wrap up on what I have in the presentation, we have engaged with all abutting neighbors and neighbors along Powhatan Road, whether that be through one-on-one meetings, door-to-door outreach, or our community meeting. And that is all I have prepared. I do have all the slides from last meeting, so happy to walk through anything else, but thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. I do want to thank you for addressing the concerns that I brought up. I do appreciate that. And I hope that this project shows a positive for what solar can be. I still question it, but we'll see in that one. But one question I do have that I didn't get to ask the last time is, what happens if the ownership changes, either from the landowner or from yourself? What happens? I don't want the county to be stuck having to decommission it.
Yes, absolutely. That's a very important question. So any conditions of approval that are in the package tonight, should it be approved, run with the land, run with the project LLC. The decommissioning bond is put into the county's name so that if anything happens with whoever owns the project, if it's us or otherwise, the county is protected by that bond.
And the bond is reviewed every 5 years, you said?
Yes, that's correct.
And then added to if there's escalating costs?
That's correct, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You good?
All right. Just one follow-up. I think when you were here the other month, maybe it was during the Planning Commission. Are the residents of King George going to get the first shot at allocation within the community solar project?
We have the ability to allocate residents to be the first to sign up for a short window of time. Yes.
There has been interest within the community, so I would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah. No, not yet. Not yet, I don't think. Yeah, sorry. That's it.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If there are no any other questions, this is the second time we've heard this applicant. I wonder if it would, if anyone's opposed to us taking action upon this tonight.
Well, before we do that, we need to do public comment. So I'll now open the floor to public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please state your name and address before you comment. And upon completion of public comment, I will bring the matter back to the board for discussion or questions, but the board will not take action with the proposed resolution until after an additional public hearing. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, I think we can take action tonight. Regardless, I'll now open the floor for public comment. 3 minutes to address just the public hearing of what we just talked about. The first person signed up is Mr. Shelton. Come on down, sir.
Don Shelton, 94 Aspen Court, King George. I'm a Native American. My Indian name is Flying Eagle the River Fox. This particular field is most likely a site of an Indian village. So as we did with Mr. Stewart's project, we need to do an archaeological dig on this property before we proceed. Because most likely a village was there. Number two, it is between a wetland and a lake. Should we or should we not do an environmental impact study on it? Just something for you guys to consider what you think is right. But again, if the solar farm on Mr. Stewart's property was required a ecological research, we need to require it on this one too, because it was definitely a village there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Pastor James Shaw.
James Shaw, James Monroe District, speaking as EDA member and citizen. Talked to this issue, I think, back at the Planning Commission, and speaking in favor of it. Looking forward to this being the second of our solar projects, which have the opportunity of being hybrid type applications, being both agricultural and solar. We will see more of these. The technology continues to improve. Our experience in making these things work get better. The land underneath them continues to get more fertile as we go into the future. And so we look forward to seeing this be an example for future solar projects to come.
Thank you, sir. That was the last of the people that pre-signed up. Is there anybody in the audience who didn't get a chance to sign up but would like to speak? All right, seeing none. I know we have at least one written correspondence. Actually, did you want to read that? It was to you, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stroud, did you want to read that?
He is for and in support of the solar farm, but he stated that it didn't need to be read.
Okay, sounds good. Any other written correspondence? Seeing none. Mr. Dines, anybody online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Over to the board for discussion, or do I have a motion? I think you started down that path.
Yeah, I don't have a motion in this, but I'd make a motion to approve applicant number Z 2025-00304 Palatine Road Solar Larry Carr as approved, or what's the statement to be signed off by you guys?
Just adopt the ordinance 0 tag 04 tag 26 as presented.
There you go.
Before we move forward, I think I need to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the public hearing is now closed.
Motion made.
Yeah. So we have a motion on the floor to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion properly made and seconded. Any discussion?
I'm just going to take a second to discuss before we get back to that motion. Mr. Shelton, the applicant, and it came through the two previous public meetings, there was a lot of discussion about the water runoff, and the presentation here did have additional details than the original packet, and they're still working with community development, which will have, the site will have to comply with all of our water runoff requirements levied on anybody that develops land and property. And I would recommend you get with a landowner about artifacts. The benefit, as I've read and have reviewed this packet, there's not the old way of doing solar, which was to clear the whole property, make it flat, put in solar panels. This one has terrain following racking and piles, so it's a minimal disturbance. So it's one of your neighbors, and now I remember where we had the discussion during the election. So thank you for coming up with your comments today. Yeah, with that, no other discussion.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Ms. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations, y'all. All right.
This one.
And we got another public hearing. This one is for item number 02-10, Eagle Bay. This is for consideration for exception request for section 10-3-7A2 of King George County Subdivision Ordinance regarding block length. Mr. Kenny Vaughn, the King George County Board of Supervisors will now hold a public hearing that is properly advertised to receive public input regarding Eagle Bay consideration of exception request from section 10-3-7A2 of the King George County Subdivision Ordinance regarding block length. I will first ask for the staff report. I will then open the floor to public comment. Mr. Vaughn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. Representatives from Bowman and landowners from SE Ventures and ENC have requested an exception to the 600 block length requirement for one of the proposed streets in the conceptual Eagle Bay subdivision on tax parcel 14-71. The exception is requested in accordance with section 10-1-8 of the King George County Subdivision Ordinance. The applicants are requesting an exception in accordance with Article 10, Division 1, Section 10-1-8 to the block length requirement outlined in Section 10-3-7. The section states that the maximum block length in a residential subdivision located in R1 zoning is 600 feet. The applicant requests an exception to the 600 block length in order to connect the road within the proposed subdivision. A connected road would better serve on-site traffic and provide connectivity and maneuverability, which is desired within the development. It will provide additional access to areas within the development, decreasing response time for emergency vehicles and reducing traffic on adjacent streets. Please see the attached schematic plan showing the road layout within the block length exception. This has come before, it's on the board now. This request has come before staff and the King George Fire and Recreation Chief Development Committee has reviewed the applicant's exception request regarding the 600 block length requirement. It is his opinion that granting this exception will provide for more seamless and faster response times in an event of an emergency in this proposed development. He sees no problems or concerns with the department if the section is approved. The county, no comment from the county attorney, environmental program manager didn't have a comment. Even VDOT said the office has received the applicant's exception requests dated 11/14/25 as received on 11/19/25 per minimum standards. And we have noted this request for an exception to the county's minimum 600 block length requirement. The department has no objection to the approval of this request and will allow the developer to do so. To meet the VDOT's SSAR connectivity requirements, provide 2 points of ingress and egress to proposed subdivision and avoid added street maintenance of an additional cul-de-sac that required to meet the block length requirement. The Planning Commission considered the exception request at a public hearing on January 13th, 2026, where they voted 6-0 to a favorable recommendation to the King George County Board of Supervisors. At this time, does the applicant want to add anything or may come up right now?
Thank you, Kenny. Evening, Chairman Sullivan, members of the board. First, on behalf of Bowman Engineers and my family, we'd like to thank all the county staff and all the King George departments that helped guide us in the process for this application. It's fairly straightforward, as Kenny described, exception to the block length in R1 areas of the county. Eagle Bay is one of the last R1 sections of the county. We wanted to continue the development in the right way, most pleasing for the current residents and the future residents that, move into the community. Just a bit of history on the community. My brother Warren and I took over development and management in 2018 when my father passed. He took over the project in 2003 from the original developer, quickly completing the private water system and the original Section 1, 28 homes. We recently sold the last lot in that section. We've been working on this new section since 2007, fits and starts over the years. Most recently, we ran into this requirement for the 600-foot maximum block length in R1, which tied our hands, would have required us to re-engineer roads, add more pavement. So the approval of the exception in front of you will help us minimize the hard surface pavement in the community, add more green space, preserve the views of the river, and add value to the existing homeowners there. And as we incorporate Section 2 into the community, we'll bring 41 new lots to the inventory on the market here in King George, where we've already received a great deal of interest from local families. If there's any questions, anything else that wasn't covered, we'd be happy to address it.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. Just for clarification to the public, because I don't even know this answer. How long ago was this platted? Because as you said, your father bought this project from the original developer.
Section 1 was platted, I believe, in 1999. Section 2 is, we're pursuing the platting of this now. We've submitted it a few times, but each time over the years, there's been a zoning change or some requirement or comment that required us to go back to the drawing board.
I just wanted to clear that for the public so they didn't think it's something that just appeared, because we had this with Potomac Landing that was originally plotted in 1988. So people understand there are these older projects out there.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Very good.
Thank you.
I'll now open the floor for public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please state your name and address before you comment. The first person signed up is Pastor James Shaw.
James Shaw, James Monroe District, speaking in my capacity as EDA member and citizen. As I had spoken at the Planning Commission when this came through, this is kind of one of these no-brainer kind of things. You have kind of these restrictive ideas and specs and lengths and that kind of thing, and this just makes total common sense. And the added bonus is, instead of being a single entry in, you form a loop so that if there's a problem on one leg, people can get in and out going the other way. And for this, I recommend passage.
All right, thank you, sir. Nobody else has signed up. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make public comment? All right, seeing none. Is there any written correspondence to address this? Seeing none. Mr. Dines, do you have anybody online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. I'll close the public hearing on this item and turn it back over to the board for discussion.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we approve or adopt the ordinance 0-05 or OTAC 05 TAC 26 as presented.
That's the wrong number, isn't it? Okay, my bad. I'm looking at the wrong sheet. All right, we got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Probably second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I will abstain from this motion. I own an interest in a business that owns a easement on a property adjacent to this. So
sounds good. All right, roll call. Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Congratulations, guys. All right, now we'll move on to presentations. Item 02-11, the DWRC fiscal year 25 annual report. And I understand Mr. Bowles is going to be presenting on behalf of Ms. Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to say, I'm not Kate Gibson. Chip Boyles, Executive Director for the George Washington Regional Commission. Thanks for having us tonight. You've got two of us, myself, Sarah Oldacker, who's got the next two agenda items. I'm just going to try to, as briefly as I can, give you an update from our fiscal year 2025 annual report. You have, I believe, both a printed copy in front of you as well as an online copy. So I will just hit a few highlights and be more than happy to answer any questions, whether now or at some point in the future. Also, just as a reminder, Chair Sullins is on our board, and then Supervisor Bender is actually the chair of our board. So I'm sure that the two of them can answer a number of your questions as well. Let's see which button to hit. Oops. There we go. We start with, I think it's on the first, page 2, a letter from myself that's in this. We also include a letter from our previous board chair, Miss Lori Hayes. You'll see Miss Bender here on the FY26 annual report next year. Just want to point out one of the things that Supervisor Hayes noted in her introductory letter here is just what a good working relationship our board has grown into. We have very productive meetings, very timely meetings. We get a lot done usually in an hour, and all 5 of our jurisdictions on this board is working very, very closely on the regional issues. Sometimes, as should be, the board doesn't agree on things, but we've got a great board that states where their positions, they vote their positions, they go on to the next agenda item. And that's something that Supervisor Hayes points out in her letter. I then provide a brief summary, mostly about our financial conditions, which we think are very, very good. There's a lot more information towards the end of the annual report, but the one thing we do like to point out is about halfway down on that page where we will provide an 18-to-1 return on investment for our region. So for every dollar that our local governments give us, we receive $18 in other federal, state, and then miscellaneous things like other nonprofit or foundation grants. The vast majority of it is federal money. And if you combine the federal and state money, that's 78% of our budget. But we return $18 to the region for every $1 that our local governments do provide us. Not a real great picture there. I won't stay on that long. Our board, we're made up of 2 elected officials from each of our 5 jurisdictions. Some of our jurisdictions do provide alternates in case some of their members aren't able to make those meetings. Others have chosen not to. It's not mandatory. And a number of our board members have been on the board for quite some time, including Supervisor Bender. We follow a 5-year strategic plan that was adopted in 2022. About a year ago, we updated that in a 3-year increment, and our programs all follow what's established in that strategic plan, and it provides the programs that we work on, which include transportation, which is both urban and rural, environmental, economic development, housing, and health. Make sure I'm not missing any. And that's it. We do also in our strategic plan spend a lot of time on our administration and our organizational priorities. Our economic development program, I won't go into really any detail there. Sarah will cover that a little bit later. But she is the head of our Go Virginia program, where we're one of the few planning district commissions in the state that oversees the entire Go Virginia region. So for us, it's not just Planning District 16, it's also the Northern Neck, as well as the Middle Peninsula PDCs. In FY25, we had 6 new projects that brought in just over $1.1 million. 5 of those 6 projects were in Planning District 16, and 2 of those 5 projects were King George County projects. In addition to our Go Virginia program, well, including in our Go Virginia program, we completed the second regional summit where we brought in economic developers and economic development stakeholders around the region and from the state. Last year's was in Fredericksburg. We have one coming up in April, if I'm not mistaken, April 21st. We'd love to see you all there. It's at the Dahlgren UMW campus right here in King George. We also partnered with all 5 of our jurisdictions recently. Sarah will get into the details later, completing a comprehensive economic development strategy. It's the first time one of those have been completed within our region ever. It's a federal Economic Development Administration program that makes us eligible for certain EDA grants. Without that regional SEDS document, we're not eligible for those grants for economic development activities. Our environmental services, which we're really kind of moving gangbusters on right now, especially with our septic relief program. We have grant funds that are able to replace or repair failing septic systems for single-family homes within our region. And so far, we've got 3 completed projects, and we have over a dozen applications right now. And I know of 3 of those that we're working on in King George County. 2 of those are septic tank replacements, and a third will be replacing the septic tank with the ability to connect the house to your public sewer system. Those are the ones that we really like to do because it completely removes it from that concern of a future failing septic system. We also participate in some green infrastructure projects, and you can see from the picture here, we did a project in King George County where we were able to do some improvements at the Cedale Brooks Junior Park. And we also were able to plant some trees partnering with Friends of the Rappahannock in Hopyard Farm neighborhood. Oops. Our housing and community health. We, of course, host the Continuum of Care for the region, which is a homeless provision of services. And we have been able to assist over 189 people that are consistently homeless within the region. And also through the Continuum of Care, we bring in just over $2.5 million to be able to provide homeless services throughout the region. In addition to that, we also, it's a very small program for us, but a very big impact where we're able to provide over $46,000 towards some of the food services as far as emergency food and shelter. And finally, we also, in working with the University of Mary Washington and the Mary Washington Health System, as well as the Regional Health Department, we're part of a community regional health improvement plan where housing and affordable housing and attainable housing were identified as one of the top 3 health concerns within our region. If you don't have adequate housing, your health tends to be a lot worse, and the hospitals see more people because of that. So we've been able to receive a grant for the last 3 years that's able to fund a regional housing assembly where we bring housing stakeholders together and work towards efforts that try to improve the housing conditions. Right now, one of our priorities is looking for a housing rehabilitation program, if we can obtain some funding so that we can repair roofs, repair plumbing, make housing units handicap accessible. We're trying to do that across the region. Of course, transportation is one of the biggest activities that we undertake. I tell people quite often it's one of the very few things that all 5 of our jurisdictions totally agree on. It's traffic and congestion. How to fix it, they may not agree on, but the fact that it's there, they definitely do. So we house FAMPO, the Fredericksburg Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, and then we also house a rural transportation program where we help King George and Caroline counties with their smart scale applications and other types of transportation and planning functions. Finally, we also have our three different rideshare programs. One is our GW Ride Connect, where we connect carpoolers together to travel to and from work. We also have a van pool program where we provide financial assistance to entities and companies that provide vans to do carpooling to and from work. And one thing very few people even know about is that we provide an insurance program statewide where we're able to provide liability and property insurance for companies that operate van pools for commuting assistance. The state used to run it because we had 62% of the vans in the statewide van pool population. They asked us to run it, and we're able to do that out of our office there in Fredericksburg. Finally, knowing that it's very, very important to you all and kind of following in your footsteps on the priority for transparency, this is our funding scheme. It's in our annual report. It's also in great detail with our annual budget, but it's hopefully Supervisor Bender or Supervisor Sullins can tell you, we give a very detailed report to our executive committee and our full board every month. Our executive committee actually has access to all of our invoices, all of our payments, as well as who owes us what. So we try to make that as transparent as possible so everybody knows where our money comes from and where it goes out to. And within this annual report, we're able to show that as well. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions, but would be even happier if you'd like to get in touch with me later, and I can give you any details on any of our programs.
Thank you, Chip. I appreciate it. It's good to see you more than once a month.
Thank you. I'll see
Anybody
you
got any
soon.
questions?
Great.
All right.
I'll
Thank
turn
you.
it over to Sarah.
Thank you very much. All right.
All right. Thanks for having me tonight. I am Sarah Oldacre. I'm the Economic Development Program Director at GWRC and the Director of Go Virginia Region 6. I'm also,
I apologize for a second. I apologize. Can we're going to call for a 5-minute recess real quick.
That's fine. Told you to get me out by my bedtime.
Was it?
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll just do it now.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, we got it started. Sorry. All right. We're in a 5-minute recess. 5 minutes, guys. I'm watching the clock. Actually, not y'all's problem. These guys.
regions such as Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula already have their SEDS. So it's really exciting. This is our first one. I'll go over some highlights for you tonight, and you have the full plan in your packet. Let's see if that'll work. Okay. So just to give an overview of what a SEDS is, it's a strategic plan for economic development for a region from the US EDA. It enables us to access those funds that previously not accessible to us. So there are US EDA grants available to localities who have a SEDS. So since this is our first one, we have not been able to access these. So that's one of the more important aspects of having this strategy. It provides a SWOT analysis for the region, allows us to have closer alignment between public and private sector stakeholders, as well as education, that we're all aligned on our economic development strategy. It enables us to use our regional resources better and leverage them as opposed to compete with each other, and prioritizes a wide range of projects and initiatives, and then also provides a resiliency plan. When we say resiliency, we means what if something happens like a pandemic? What do we do? How do we plan for that? So these are all overview, sort of basic aspects of the SEDS. To give you a background of the process, in September of 2024, we were awarded a $50,000 grant from the US EDA to develop the SEDS. Match was provided by $10,000 from each of the 5 member jurisdictions. We started a steering committee, which Mr. Smolnick attended, and the economic development directors from the other member jurisdictions. And we got together, issued an RFP for a consultant, and hired RKG Associates to conduct the SEDS for us. I'm not going to go too much detail. This is our roadmap for how we conducted the SEDS, and you can see now we're at our February date, which is presenting this to our GWRC board and to the boards of supervisors and Fredericksburg City Council. Part of the SEDS, and a big piece of this, was community and stakeholder engagement. So we formed a larger strategy committee of up to 25 members with local businesses, higher education, military installations, and then again, representatives from all 5 localities. We met 4 times in 2025 and met with the consultant to go over data, what our shared goals are, strategic plans, and issued 2 surveys. One was a business survey, which was done in conjunction with the Go Virginia Region 6 Growth and Diversification Plan. And then the other was for just PD 16, was a community survey. We had really great responses from that. And just to go over some examples of, I would say, with some of the top issues for people in these surveys and in the public comment period that we had was, obviously, as Chip said, transportation congestion was a big issue, water use and how it relates to data centers, regional tourism and a branding effort, and then childcare and healthcare access, or the need for more of it. That was a big theme as well. So some of these strategy and action plans that you'll see in this plan, in this strategies, in the SEDS, will be coordinated effort among the 5 localities, but we also don't want to dismiss the individual character of each of our 5 localities. We are a really unique planning district. We have a very different, rural, more urban, and so we wanted to make sure we were leveraging and complementing each other. The consultant looked at everyone's strategic plans, they looked at your comp plans and took those into consideration. Our GWRC board did adopt this plan at the February 2nd meeting. And I want to go over now some of the more detailed goals and strategies that I think are really important for King George County. So if you look at regional workforce development and skills alignment, that's one of the top goals and strategies of the plan. Some of the more narrowed down actions would be to expand CTE opportunities, such as a VOTEC Center, which I would love to talk to you about how Go Virginia can help you with funding for that at a different date. Also with apprenticeships and trades. A regional utility strategy under number 2, which was infrastructure coordination for economic development, regional childcare access expansion, and of course, transportation and congestion strategy. For number 3, looking at strategic industry cluster development, regional site evaluation, which I'll talk to you about next, and site readiness evaluation. So having business ready sites as being an important strategy for the region. Number 4, balanced housing and community development. We're kind of already in place with some of these with the Regional Housing Assembly, as Chip said, but also looking at housing diversity for job opportunities, so workforce housing. Number 5, small business and entrepreneurship ecosystem building, looking at incubator funding, resources for people who are wanting to start businesses, small or high growth businesses. And then for King George specifically, we have a really unique opportunity with the base and the Potomac Tech Bridge and looking at commercializing some of those patents there. That's something that I think came up a lot during this period. Number 6, looking at tourism and placemaking. This was a really big point during our public comment period about having a regional tourism or regional branding strategy. And then lastly, data-driven regional economic intelligence. So that would be something like a regional data repository. I'm happy to answer any questions. As you can see, it's a large strategic plan with a lot of appendix, a lot of data, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have or go over at a later date with you in more detail.
Thanks. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, I would definitely like to follow up with you, particularly on a couple of those topics, workforce housing and economic development.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And I guess you can move on to your next one.
Yes. Pull the next one. All right, I'm going to put on my Go Virginia hat now. I don't have a physical hat, but I'm going to talk to you tonight about the Planning District 16 site inventory. As you know, site readiness and having business-ready sites is a big priority for the last administration, the current administration. It's a big goal for Go Virginia and for the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. Go Virginia planning grant money is available for site development. And so I want to go over kind of an opportunity we have as a region. So to give you some background, Go Virginia program currently has planning grant funding up to $100,000 for regional site identification and inventory. These funds can be used by an entire region to hire a consultant and go through and evaluate to get us ready for business-ready sites. So that's getting them on the tier level, doing an evaluation, which we'll go in more detail about. Then Virginia Economic Development Partnership has funding through their Virginia Business Ready Sites program to then go and characterize any of these sites. There's funding through VEDP and Go Virginia to do due diligence work, initial engineering, environmental work on these sites, and then of course additional funding larger through VBRSP to get them up to pad-ready sites to Tier 4 or Tier 5. So benefits of having these studies. Each participating locality will have 2 to 3 sites identified in the study for future development. What that means, they'll be looking at standardized data for their sites, site tier verification in the Virginia scan listing, which is where all of your sites are advertised on the VEDP website. Gap analysis with a cost to Tier 4 development roadmap. So that's really important for you to have a strategic plan. If your county identifies sites that you want to get ready for strategic marketing for an industry that you identify, how can we get that site to a Tier 4? What's needed to get it ready for a business to locate there? Ranked site pipeline and advancement plan, and then a playbook with cost ranges, next steps. Site selectors evaluate regions as a whole. This is why it's important to do this regionally, to have this not just as an individual locality, because those site selectors will tell you that regional readiness is a critical location factor for them. And then having your VBRSP certified business ready sites also helps you score higher on smart scale, especially for rural localities. I am not the smart scale expert. I probably cannot answer any questions on that for you tonight. I will refer you to Carrie Eves in our office, our rural transportation planner. But it does help right now. That's a big priority for us, is to get more business ready sites we can score higher for smart scale projects. So application process. The FRA has been identified as the applicant for this planning grant as the REDO in partnership with the GWRC and VEDP. There is a 2-to-1 match requirement for all Go Virginia grants. So to participate in the grant, the EDA or locality would have to give $5,000 cash match and then $5,000 in-kind match, meaning staff time spent with the consultant, making sure that your locality's interests are sought and what you want is in that plan. The grant application right now is due on May 1st. And then if it's approved, it'll probably be around July 2026 with a 9-month grant period and a 3-month closeout. What you'll get at the end of that is an evaluation and a report. We'll have 2 to 4, I would say, sites per locality, meaning in King George, that you guys can then take and either get higher characterized under VEDP, or you can apply for grants to even get that site ready to a Tier 4 or Tier 5.
All right.
any questions.
Mr. Chair, I do have one. Why was the FRA identified? Why could it not be GWRC?
Good question. We went to them as we were looking at being an applicant. It does put us in a weird position as being the support org for Go Virginia Region 6, so I could not do the application. It would have to be Chip or Kate doing it. And we went to them saying, we want King George involved in this. And I think it's important as a citizen, as someone who's regional economic development, I look at the whole Go Virginia region and I look at our sub-regions. They are the regional economic development organization that's closest aligned with VEDP. So VEDP has said that it would also be good for them to do the application, and all of them. As you know, there is a leadership change going on there now, and I think that we can take advantage of that and maybe come together more as a region. Also, capacity-wise, staffing is also an issue.
Now, does it require us to be members of the FRA?
No.
Okay.
This is the match, $5,000 cash to go towards the consultant. It would go towards and then the in-kind match would be, I guess, the economic development staff or Matt's time spent with the consultant and with the advisory committee, making sure that your interests are met in that report.
That's fair. That is my biggest heartburn because, for me being on the board, to me, the FRA really didn't do a lot for King George,
And I
except
understand
forcing a $1.25 tax rate for data centers.
Yeah, I understand the history there, but I think in terms of site development as a region, I think we're all on the same page.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. It's great to see you more than once a month as well.
You too.
Okay, moving on to action items. First item up tonight is 02-14 King George Technology Center Green Energy Ventures. Come on up, fellas. Have a safe trip going home, y'all. So we had a public hearing on this at the last meeting, or actually it was the last meeting or the meeting before. Public hearing on this already. There were a number of questions. As a board, we asked these guys to go back and re-watch the YouTube video, make sure that we've addressed all the questions on any issues with the proffers. We received the updated proffers on Friday. Our county attorney, our county administrator have both gone over these a number of times, gone back and forth with the applicants. And we got a clean copy of it, I think, this morning. And so I'll turn it over to the board for questions. And as always, I try to let folks finish your thoughts. So, we'll avoid popcorn questions as much as possible, but if you've got a follow on for something, please feel free. We'll pop up and, I got a question.
Good evening, Chair Sullins, members of the board. Thank you again for this opportunity. This is actually a dated presentation from the public hearing. We did go rewatch the hearing as requested, and I do have kind of categorized all of the questions we were asked and have kind of our response to those questions. So if you will, I would go through each one of those, but it isn't really tied to the presentation because the presentation hasn't been updated because I didn't think we were revisiting this presentation.
I didn't think we were either. I was joking when I told you you had 45 minutes.
All right, so
absolutely joking.
Okay, so if you will,
if you want to address the questions, go ahead.
Certainly, thank you. First question, noise level. What will be the noise level generated by the project? Maximum sound levels will not exceed sound level limits as set forth in the King George County Industrial Noise Standards. Beyond the basic restrictions, GEV has also mitigated sound emissions by including 16-foot berms, heavily landscaped with large caliber evergreen trees, and by increasing the building setbacks to 250 feet. In addition, we have committed to provide a sound analysis prior to the issuance of final certificates of occupancy for each data center building on site. Given our commitment to this noise standard, the mitigating efforts and the testing we have committed to in the proffers, and the ongoing technological advancements in the data center industry, GEV is confident that any noise generated by the project will have negligible impact on the community. Will there be air pollution? We have proffered that only generators meeting or exceeding the US EPA's Tier 4 or equivalent emission standards may be utilized on the site, committing GEV to the highest air quality control standards. We are sensitive to our environment, And as technologies continuously become greener, GV will strive to utilize the most environmentally sensitive equipment feasible in operations. The wildflower maintenance and who will pay for that. We have proffered to submit a landscape maintenance plan to the zoning administrator for approval with each site plan submission. We will not only install the wildflower meadows at our own expense, we have taken full responsibility for maintaining the wildflower meadows in perpetuity, including paying for all associated expenses. Historical artifacts. What will happen to any historical artifacts? We intend to secure and safeguard all historical artifacts on site and keep them in King George County for the benefit of the community. We have committed that any historical artifacts removed from the property shall be retained by a county or regional museum or other appropriate recipient as may be identified by the zoning administrator. How will this project impact agriculture and farming in King George? We do understand the important role that farmers and agriculture play in King George County. We believe that by generating substantial tax revenue in this relatively small and concentrated area, consistently designated by the comprehensive plan as industrial, the county is better able to retain the rural character of the rest of the planning areas. Beyond this, GEV would like to support ongoing agricultural efforts in the community, so we have added another $500,000 to the monetary proffers, and the use of funds has been broadened to include agriculture and farming. The proffer continues to give the Board of Supervisors broad discretion in the use of the proffered funds. There were some questions about a security or gatehouse to be located so it does not back up traffic on Route 3. To address concerns about vehicle lines at main entrance, sheet 9 of the zoning plan has been updated to reflect a proposed guard station location. This does add about 220 feet of vehicle storage area and was a good suggestion. What if the neighboring wells proposed on the project are impacted? Excuse me. Although the proposed wells are unlikely to impact neighboring wells because the wells will be permitted, regulated, and routinely monitored by the DEQ in a manner that limits groundwater withdrawals to amounts that will not adversely affect other wells, GV is committed to remedying any impact if that should happen. If construction activities or the installation of a well by GEV results in the failure of a well on an adjacent property, GEV had already proffered to repair or replace the impacted well at its sole cost and expense, or connect the property to public water, including the payment of applicable connection fees. GEV has further strengthened this commitment by amending the proffers and committing to submit to the county administrator for review and approval an arbitration plan to determine GEV's liability under this proffer. A lot of questions about where the electrical power will come from. There are 4 substations shown on our zoning plan. Dominion Energy, we are within the Dominion Energy service area. And in March of 2024, Dominion Energy provided us a will serve letter for our project. We've discussed the batch system, their queue system. We are in batch 3 of this Dominion Energy queue system. And we understand there are 10 applicants per batch and there are 12 batches, placing us relatively early in the process. Therefore, our project represents a real asset to King George in that we represent the quickest pathway for the county to achieve the substantial tax revenues that will result from data center operations on the property. We have an ongoing relationship with Dominion Energy, and we believe there's a strong potential to move up in this queue system once our project is entitled. There's been questions about bridging power. We will continue to work diligently in pursuit of grid power through Dominion Energy as our primary power source of data center operations, as discussed. We have explored the possibility of bringing natural gas to our site to use potentially as a power source, either a bridging power source or a backup power source, until Dominion Energy power becomes available. The strong preference remains obtaining power through Dominion Energy, and we are working to accelerate that process, and we believe we will. Any natural gas powered or other solution would require an extensive regulatory review at the local, state, and federal level. Importantly, any power solution would be subject to the same proffered commitments that apply to our data center buildings, which establish standards for building height, noise, and emissions. How much traffic will there be, and what about new traffic lights? For context, compared to any other industrial or commercial use, a data center building has by far the least impact on traffic. As to traffic lights, GEV engaged Wells and Associates to conduct a traffic impact analysis, which included a preliminary signal warrant analysis. It is the professional opinion of our transportation consultant and our professional civil engineer that the only location that may ultimately justify a traffic signal is at the intersection of Route 3 and Bloomsbury Road. While we will need to go through the VDOT and county review process, we do not anticipate the need for traffic signals at any of the other proposed entrances. What about water withdrawal? We have proffered not to use any groundwater for cooling, and we are committed to utilize Service Authority water as soon as it becomes available. To expedite the availability process, GEV has proffered to pay upfront availability connection fees of $5 million, $2.5 million for water and $2.5 million for sewer. In addition, to address any unfounded concerns that we intend to buy river water from another source, GEV has further strengthened its proffer to explicitly preclude any use of water drawn from the Rappahannock River unless such water supply has been authorized by the Board of Supervisors. What about, and there was questions about these state infrastructure grants. We have agreed not to receive state infrastructure grants pursuant to Virginia Code Section 59.1-284.42 without the express approval of the Board of Supervisors. And lastly, who is our end user? GEV has not entered into any arrangements with an end user. We've had discussions with many potentially interested parties, all of whom are awaiting the outcome of our zoning application. But it is important to recognize, however, that regardless of the end user, all proffered commitments and agreements run with the land and will govern the usage of this property in perpetuity. We started this process over 4 years ago. We came to King George to this particular site because we felt as though we were invited here by the comprehensive plan. Initial discussions with board members and staff were positive about our proposed use. They wanted to work with us. Since that time, we have worked through the new zoning ordinance, the requirements of a special exception for data center uses, and extensive interaction with community and board members, which we appreciate. We have gone to great lengths to mitigate our impacts. We have demonstrated that we're in compliance with the comp plan and we're compatible with surrounding uses, being that our site is within an industrial park. We have demonstrated the overwhelmingly positive economic impact our project will have on the King George residents, both in our proffered commitments and the tax revenues our project will generate for the county. We do understand this is an important vote you cast tonight for the 29,000 or so residents of King George you represent. We do sincerely appreciate your thoughtful consideration. If you had specific questions, we're here to answer as best we can. Proffer-related questions, I can refer to our attorney. But that is our best way that we could comprehensively categorize each question that came before us, how we've answered them, and the measures we've taken to address them and improve on our commitments.
Great, thank you, sir. I figured.
You knew I was going to have questions, and I do appreciate, and I want to be very transparent to the public. I did speak to Mr. Mitchell and his team by Zoom last week to ask some of these questions, which I heard answered here, but I still have a couple other questions. And looking at why can you not go for the traffic through the road that's in the industrial park without creating that entrance?
Andy, I'm sorry, what? Do we want to pull up a transportation slide?
Because what I'm thinking of is you're going to have all those data centers in Stafford and then possibly the AWS site and then here. And so, you know, there is that road in the industrial park. Why is it not feasible to have one entrance and go through the road in the industrial park that kind of butts up on your property?
Well, we looked, yep. This is our civil engineer, Andy. He's designed our preliminary zoning plans.
Good evening, Andy Gorecki from J2 Civil Engineer. So the way that whole industrial park was designed was basically end to a cul-de-sac. That area is only accessible as far as our site, is that small piece where we're showing one of the substations. After that, we go through the floodplain. So for the substation, because it's limited use, we're able to use that existing road that goes through there. So one issue would be is by connecting that through there, separate from not having any easement to tie into the cul-de-sac where there's the end parcel, which has already been purchased by, I'm not sure exactly who it was, but I think it was roughly about a year before we started our process. I think someone had already bought that parcel. That kind of dead ends that portion, so we don't really have full access into there. And then that area that we have is a very small portion unless we want to go across the floodplain. So that's why we're always going the other direction.
Much more of an impact.
Yeah, that would be a bigger environmental impact.
All right, thank you. My next question, and this is a clarifying question. So a lot of these proffers, and even the money, the magic money as I call it, they come at the first building that is operational, correct?
For approval of the first building permit. The building permit, not the occupancy permit.
Okay.
So before we start on the first building, when we have the building permit, but before it's constructed, we will pay what is amount to a little bit over $9.1 million.
Okay, so why I ask that question? Because I still have heartburn over the power, because I understand the batch system, and what I've heard about the batch system, no matter how many you want to make it rosy, it could be 3 to 7 years. So if we approve this, it could be 3 to 7 years before we see anything. Hopefully, it would not be. You would be moved up, but I can't assure that. So without a power source, I know you have a load letter, but that still bothers me, that there is no, right now you have a promise, but no actual source.
Well, I respect your concerns. We do have a commitment and a source. In terms of the batch position, we've actually been encouraged that projects that are entitled have a real chance of moving up, and there will be a review, and those projects that aren't entitled have a real chance of being, whether you want to call them moved out or us moved up. So that is our primary focus. And I would also reiterate that it is the earliest and soonest opportunity to monetize this in a way for this type of revenues. So I believe we represent the quickest resource for this overwhelmingly positive impact here. I can't tell you the exact time. We are subject to market forces, like everybody is, but I can tell you that by getting this entitlement now, we will only be accelerated, and those revenues will get here quicker than in any other way.
But if you say you're not moved up, how are you going to power that at site? Because I've read there's some data centers that are now looking at having the power contained on site and building your own power source. So that's still a concern of mine, because you do not have the power. You have a load letter, but that's it.
Well, that's why we've gone to extensive lengths to establish the standard, so that anything we do, because we can't really proffer to an unknown, but we can proffer to a standard. And anything we do is directed and limited and constrained by those standards. So we've established the noise standards, we've established the emission standards, we've established the building height standards, we've established now wetland studies and where you can put these structures. So by establishing the standard, we have answered potentially unanswered questions now, because things can change in terms of what power source might look like. So while technology changes, what we can do is commit now to that reasonable standard and enforce it, whatever the unknown may be. But the bridging power was not part of our application. I was asked about it in a presentation. What happens, because you voiced a concern that what happens if this is a long way out? And so we have been looking at, well, what else might we do to accelerate things? And so we've established a standard. We've explored the possibility of accelerating things, potentially by bringing natural gas, either for backup or for bridge. But again, it was just an exploratory in feasibility, if you will. It's not actually part of our plan, but if it were to go that way, there's another full regulatory process that we would be subject to. And again, we would be constrained by the commitments we've made in our proffers. So that really is the best answer we can give you. It's hard to proffer to an unknown, but what we can do is establish a standard.
But you're asking us to make a vote on an unknown, and that bothers me.
Well, I understand it may bother you, but we believe that the vote really is about our land use application and how we've mitigated that land use application, the compatibility of our use within the industrial park neighborhood that it already is, and our commitment to the comprehensive plan or adherence to the comprehensive plan. So we believe it's viewed more as a land use application than a future business projection, if you will, about when the monetization might happen. We believe it is based on the compatibility of the application and the mitigation of the impacts of the application.
But our residents don't see that. They see what the potential could be because they don't know what the power source is. So we disagree on that, but I'm going to move on. We could have a debate all day on this.
Well, I respectfully appreciate your question and concerns and how you represent your constituents. And I'm not trying to at all be evasive.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Just trying to direct kind of what we can control and what we can foresee, which is the strength of our mitigation efforts with our application and establishing very tough standards for any future use that comes.
Well, now the last thing I have is in your proffers, and that's on page 7, and that has the failure of the adjacent property well. And I know I brought this up to you in the meeting, and I still don't like the language here because my concern is there's not only damage, and this has happened in Georgia, where during construction, property owners' wells were damaged. Now, it had to do with drilling your well. It had to do with construction. And so I want to make sure that those residents that will be affected there are protected. And also with the arbitration, that it's not your person who picks it. It's somebody that King George, because we want to make sure that this arbitration is done fairly so that the citizens, if their well is affected, it will be addressed, which you did mention, but that is a big part.
Okay, so to address your concern about potential construction issues, we've added in section 5.3 construction mitigation. At the end of that, the plan shall also provide a remedy in the event the applicant's construction is shown to have damaged the well of any adjacent landowner. And in terms of the arbitration plan, that will be solely approvable by the zoning administrator. So we've basically opened ourselves up to your approval of what our liability will be in the event of a well failure. So we feel as though that's the strongest commitment we can make, is that we will work together on an arbitration plan, but we can't go forward without the zoning administrator's approval.
All right, thank you.
Right. Did you have some?
Yes, please. Thank you. Roger, thank you for being here. So I had approached you guys about a program that I'd heard about, the Golden Leaf program. I'd reached out to Mr. Mitchell about it. And basically it's some things that they had done in North Carolina, which I think really suits our area, which is basically what that program is because there were small towns like ours who were worried about how data centers were going to destroy the rural life and that of those issues. And they created a program where basically a portion of revenue, not a one-time check, which I appreciate the $500,000, but it's going on a yearly basis. There's money put into a fund, and then that money in itself can be used as grants for farmers in King George, for farmers in the Northern Neck, to maybe upstart a farmer who wants to start, who has to buy a farm, who wants to buy a tractor, who wants to do something that helps us. So if we agree that we're giving up this spot of land, but in giving up that piece of land, we're protecting the rest of the rural property of our county and even the Northern Neck. You know, we want to be good partners with everybody that we deal with. And I spoke a little bit about how I envision that, and I'd like that to be considered. You know, it's not a must, but it's something I'd like to be considered. I know the $500,000 is a great gift to begin that process and start that program up. I think with all the money that's going to be made from data centers in the upcoming years, I think if there was a percentage of something going into a fund to continue to help keep rural life in this area, I think it'd go a long way.
Well, I appreciate that, Supervisor Davis, and I also appreciate the notion behind it. And we did consider it sincerely. I would suggest to you that we have to remain competitive in order to bring in the partners we will need to make this project a reality. We talked before about needing an end user, a data center operator, if you will, a kind of a landlord to service that end user tenant. And we also have to bring in financiers in the billions of dollars. So to put in a revenue-based, consistent, in perpetuity contribution, we feel as though would tilt us to the uncompetitive. So we increased our proffers, which I would also point out to you is the largest proffer package that we've seen monetarily in any of the other applications that have been for you in terms of the cash contribution at the stage that we're contributing it, at the first building permit occupancy. So essentially before we even start, a contribution of over $9 million is unprecedented here. So we've made that commitment. We've addressed all of the other proffer-related questions that we've had, concerns about water coming out of the river, concerns about groundwater, concerns about state infrastructure grants. So we feel as though we have gone, I don't want to say above and beyond, but we have gone to our level best to satisfy as many of the requests as we can possibly satisfy, but also keep a viable project that is bankable.
Mr. Davis, I just wanted to point out that the way we've set the proffer up, you mentioned the sum of $500,000, but any of the $3.5 million can be used for any of these purposes within the board's discretion. So it can go beyond that. The county can invest the money, however you choose to set it up. There also is an issue at some point about the nexus, the impact of the development on a program like that. Clearly, we have a continuing thing with the fire supply and the fire department because public safety, and we're creating partially a need for that. So those were our thoughts, but the money is open-ended, the whole 3.5.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You have an email you need to read?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I have an email from Kristen Pruitt. Dear members of the Board of Supervisors, I respectfully called in earlier. Okay. That was the one.
All right. No other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment that I appreciate you guys looking at that signal and getting the information on that. That commitment to the one signal, I think, is an important one. So, thank you.
All right, Ms. Frugi, did you have anything to add? No was a perfectly good answer. Awesome. But if you, yeah, okay, good. No, I didn't want to shut you down. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll turn it over to the board for discussion. So we've got two items that are being requested, or two special exceptions that are being requested. One is dependent upon the other, so they're kind of they're not necessarily a package deal, but one of them doesn't need to be addressed without the other one.
Mr. Chair, I feel we need a little more time to look at the proffers. These were dropped on us on Friday, and the citizens didn't even get to look at it in a proper manner. And I'll go back to my time on the board. I hate stuff that's dropped at the last minute.
All right.
Respectfully, I think we've had time to look at this for months. This project was at the Planning Commission mid last year at this point. And the proffers, what we need to review is the red lines. And I don't know about you, but I had plenty of time over the weekend to take a look at the red lines that they made to the proffer package, which was in line with exactly what we asked as they came through. And we asked a lot of questions at their previous engagement. I guess maybe I did have one question for Ms. Ferrugi. So what I didn't see in the requested package here, in our other special exceptions for data centers, there's always been a request to amend the comprehensive plan to include the properties within the settlement areas. I did not see that on this project.
Yes, sir.
Angela Ferrugi on behalf of Community Development. Thank you for your question. Yes, you are correct. They did not need a comp plan amendment. The other data centers have needed that to come within the settlement area. They're already within the Route 3 West settlement area.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Absolutely. And Mr. Chair, you indicated there's two special exceptions that rely on each other. It's a rezoning and a special exception. So I just wanted to be clear, and the special exception also includes the building height and then more than one access to the HCOD.
Thank you for
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I just want a clarification, and I've been asked by residents of this so that the project owners can say, why do you need the extra building height? And that has been a question I've been asked by many people, so at least to have it on record.
It really is just, goes back to viability of the project. It is a competitive world. The end users we're appealing to, we must attract. And if you constrain the building height to a lower level that other counties do, and the majority of the opportunities of other markets provide, then they will not consider our project. So we looked hard at this. We based it initially at 110 feet, because that was an initial standard when we came here. And then the zoning ordinance was changed. And then we looked really hard at what we could do, but how that would remain, that we would remain competitive. And we also are consistent with the recently approved Dahlgren West application. So I think they must have done the same research with the market out there to determine the viability of a site with the building height restriction. So that's where we came up with those numbers.
Thank you for clarifying for the public.
Thank you.
And then my second question is to Mr. Stewart, because I know this is a project, and Mr. Clark was here the last time I asked it, so I wanted to get your legal opinion. Is some of these cases, it keeps saying in that it goes with the comprehensive plan. Why is that important in a vote?
Your comprehensive plan in King George currently in existence calls for a data center to be located on this property.
No, but I mean, like, in each of our votes, why is it important that that is part of the vote? Like, that it clarifies that it's in the comprehensive plan?
Well, you're just recognizing that this is in compliance with your comp plan. Your comp plan is a guide that the county does to sort of say, this is where we want what, and this is what you've said you want here. So you're acknowledging that you're complying with your comp plan.
And thank you. And I asked that because that's another question that I've had asked of me quite a few times. So thank you for clarifying.
Mr. Chair, waiting on. So before making the motion, I'd like to comment that this data center is the only one that is going within an approved area, an approved site in the industrial zone. So the previous data centers that have been approved have been outside of that. So we're actually doing something that's in an approved area. But with that, I'd like to make an motion to approve the conditional rezoning application, case number Z TAC 2021 TAC 00021, and I said, Roger, sorry. Yeah, it's a 2022 TAC 00021. And to accept the voluntary proffers dated 13 February 2026, received in the administration office on February 17th, 2026 at 11:57 a.m. and is in compliance with the comprehensive plan.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion on the floor, properly seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, I do want to make one point. I want to say I appreciate Mr. Mitchell and his team for all he's done, but I still have a problem with the bridging of the power. And I just want to say I do appreciate what you've done, but I have to look out for my constituents. So I just wanted to make that a published comment because they have worked with us a lot. That part still bothers me.
All right,
Are we having a discussion?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's it.
okay. Well, anything that goes in an industrial area, typically industrial activities, like manufacturing and stuff, require a lot of power. So regardless what goes in there, there's going to be an issue of power. So, thank you. We have a motion on the floor.
Ms. Bender, I'm with you on the bridge power, and I'll be there with you at the state level if they go down that path to argue, because they will have to get other regulatory approvals to do anything other than the Tier 4 generators that they have in their proffer package. So I think there's more conversation to be had, like we heard tonight. That bridge power, the permanent 24/7, 365 bridge power was not in the application package. I think we'll use that to our advantage. My big concern was connecting them to the water. We're going to work that MOU, I think, next to get them connected to Service Authority as well. So I just wanted to say this is not an easy decision, right? We have heard from everybody here tonight. We've also heard from all of our friends and neighbors and constituents probably over the last year on this project. And like was mentioned here, right? This project wouldn't work somewhere else in the county, but it does here on this site because this site was never going to be a cornfield forever. I believe it goes back to the transfer of the property for the landfill, that this area, this triangle, was defined as being the heavy industrial area for the county. So we came through a lot of proffers discussion, and this offsets some things in the future if this business plan works out. We as board members do not get to vote on business plans. We get to vote on land use. And so I would like to entertain in the future, when we start seeing revenue from this site, how we can incentivize the preservation of ag land through land use options within our tax code. So that's my 2 cents anyway.
All right, I'll call up for a vote now. Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Ms. Bender?
Nay.
Mr. Davis?
Nay.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, next item up.
Make a motion to approve special exception permit application case number Z-2024-00194 as presented, that it is within substantial compliance of the comprehensive plan and for the building height request in excess of 50 feet.
Second.
We've got a motion on the floor, properly seconded. Any further discussion? All right, by roll call, Ms. Bender?
Nay.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right.
So we have, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve the request for more than one direct access to a highway corridor overlay district roadway.
Second.
Motion properly seconded. Any discussion?
Nay.
I haven't called on that yet. Oh, you always have
I'm
a
just
question.
being consistent.
You always have a question. I'm being consistent. Anything down here? All right. Kathy, how do you vote?
Nay.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Cool.
Let me know, I guess. Yes.
All right.
I don't know.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Metz?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, I think we're down to no discussion items, county administrator report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just a couple of quick items. So I'm working on the February 11th board exercise that we had, and I will be have a brief staff report and the findings of that exercise, hopefully on the March 3rd agenda for you all. Second item, this is relationship to the Dahlgren West data center that was already approved. Now, there was a proffer in there for tax map for parcel 17-32. It's 1.46 acres in size. The proffer states the dedication of this parcel shall be made upon the request of the board. Now, this is on the east side of 301 across from Chestnut Hill Loop Road, which is 697. So the proffer explicitly states at the request of the board. I've been talking to the Mr. Over, and he would like to get this property to us. I'm just looking for a consensus from the Board of Supervisors that you do in fact want this property to be transferred to the county. That's tax parcel 17-32.
Mr. Chair, I do remember going way back that there's always been a want for a convenience center at that location, and so this could hopefully, because Dahlgren, so people don't have to travel so far.
We just need the property first.
Well, here, I'll try to make a motion to authorize Mr. Smolnik and Mr. Stewart to help me out, Mr. Stewart, so you can give me a good
Draft a proper.
I think to direct myself, Mr. Smolnik, and Mr. Stewart to work with the applicants for Dahlgren West for the transfer of tax map parcel 17-32 to King George County.
So moved.
Second.
Motion properly seconded. All in favor? Actually,
Aye. And then one more item, Mr. Chairman. So I know there's been a lot of talk at the last board meeting or two about roads, private roads, public roads, maintenance, responsibility, whatnot. And we've discussed in length Sedgwick Court and Alberta Court. We know those were supposed to be in the system. However, as our conversations have evolved with VDOT, there are some other roads that it appears that we need to do some additional work on. There's one, I believe Mr. Solons had a comment on Lynx Drive. You received a...
There were two of them.
There were two. Whedonville Road was determined that was always meant to be private. Lynx Drive was intended to be public. It looks like there was a bond release 15 plus years ago by the county. So it looked like that was supposed to be a public road also. So I need to add this to my list. My goal is to bring these all to you at one time. So now we've got three. And then additionally, Mr. Beal reached out to us regarding some of the bus loops. If you can recall last year, there was an adjustment made here for the middle school, getting rid of some old right-of-way and encompassing the new right-of-way for the bus loop. But the questions come up for the old middle school bus loop. Since that's been demolished, can we get rid of that? So that's the fourth item. And then St. Anthony's, Route 9209, the school bus loop over off the St. Anthony's, if that's no longer being used as a school, can that come out? And then lastly, one over three elementary bus loops is in the system. The other two are out. So I think this is a time to clean up. So, I just want to let the board know, and Sedgwick Court residents and Alberta Court residents, I've got a list here, and I want to make sure. I think it's prudent just do them all at one time for the board. Work with VDOT on these, but I just want to let you know I am working on them, but I've got a laundry list here. So.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll get back to the folks that email me and let them know what we talk about and what the outcome is probably going to be.
Okay.
All right, cool.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. So something came to mind tonight before we move on. The 21 April meeting is going to overlap with the voting for the referendum that we've talked about in the past, which means we're probably going to need to move that meeting. Do we have a motion on when you guys would like to have that meeting? It's a Tuesday.
Because Ms. Gump will probably have to use this.
We may be able to use the sheriff's office. I'm looking at Ms. Fish. I think Ms. Fish has already secured the multi-purpose room at the sheriff's office building, so we can keep the same date, just move it down the road if that's acceptable to the board.
My thoughts and will of the board, not just me, but my thoughts are I'd like to avoid having anything that's going to overlap and cause people to have to choose to do one thing or other. Have I mentioned that I want y'all to go vote?
Yes, sir.
Vote on what?
I almost,
So
I'd almost, I mean, I know it's hard to predict the future, but heartburn with just canceling that meeting.
No, we'd move it to the Monday before. That's what we usually do on any vote night or election night, would be the Monday night before.
So can I get a motion?
Hold on, we got to check if that's a GWRC meeting night. Is that,
Okay.
and I don't have the calendar right in front of me, so that's a,
Stand by. I usually have it up on
can you
my.
look it up real quick?
That was April.
I know that's the night for the Go Virginia. Ms. Oldacker referenced I know there's the Go Virginia Economic Development Summit. That is a 2-day event. Part of that is on Monday night, the 20th, and the day event the following day, the 21st.
So the Monday night thing, in addition to that, there's a FAMPO Policy Committee meeting, which Ms. Bender and I participate in. We're non-voting members, so the world won't stop spinning if we don't show up. But it sounds like there's other things that are important as well. What about Wednesday?
I have no problem with Wednesday.
What's that?
Wednesday works.
All right, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to move the April 21st, 2026 meeting to April 22nd in the 2026 in the Sheriff's Office multipurpose room.
All right, we get a motion. Do I have a second?
Man, we don't have to do it to the Sheriff's Office, right? Because we're okay here.
I'm not sure how many days they're going to need this, so it's probably a safe bet to move
Okay.
it to the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, that's what she said. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Awesome. Further
Aye.
discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. You just want me to shut up, right? My wife does too. It's all good. All right, secondary public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so that it can be properly recorded in the public record. And please limit comments to what was addressed here tonight. Do we have anybody that wants to make public comment? All right, come on up, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Arn Eliason, James Madison. I just wanted to register with you all my sincere disappointment in the decision tonight to go ahead with a vote on an issue that had proffers just dropped on Friday, and proffers that I was completely unaware of, had no chance to review or think about. And I think it was somewhat irresponsible to charge forward like this. These gentlemen in suits, they're very nice men. None of them live here. All of my neighbors do live here, and they surround on Kingsbury and Bloomsbury, or Kings Highway and Bloomsbury. They surround the district that's going to be developed potentially in a few years. We'll see. But what's disturbing is that several weeks ago, I went to each of the houses and knocked on the doors, and I got about 90% of them to answer. And not a single person there could believe that data centers, the size of which are being planned, and the potential bridge power issues with gas being piped in for jet engines and pipes being sunk into the ground to draw off potable water for the people who work there, and septic systems going in to take care of their waste. They couldn't believe it was happening. And I can't believe it either, but everything was done legally. So legally, you all are on the right side. I think that in the long run, we may have a huge regret about this. Everybody kept saying to me, comp plan calls for an industrial zone there. In fact, I was even offered the chance to have it explained to me with crayons. But the comp plan is old. It's like, 2019, 7 years old. And I don't think data centers were a thing then. And I don't think anybody who was writing the comp plans for the last 2 iterations had any clue that something as monstrous as this data center campus would be proposed for that land. So it's very difficult. It's a very bitter pill to swallow. I just wanted to have a chance to register my disappointment and to say that there's so many unknowns here that, frankly, I have a hard time believing that these gentlemen will be able to live up to their promises about noise control, checking it once a year. My goodness, are you kidding me? Really? Once a year? And water usage. I heard tonight from Hobie, no water is going to be used for cooling. And then I hear later, only if it's coming from the service authority. Well, which is it? Is it water going to be used for cooling or not? So thanks for letting me spill my guts. I hope I hope that in the future, we don't have the regrets that I fear. Good night.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, did anybody receive any public or any written correspondence? Mr. Dines, you got anybody online?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Darren, can you give your comment?
Yes, good evening. I'm very surprised that the board voted in favor of both the applications. I would echo Mr. Arndt's comments on receiving these new proffers on Friday and not having any public time to review. It's beyond me how you can sit there and tell us that you all had time to review these things and make a good decision for the public. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dines, you got anybody else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody who made public comment on that. I will say that yes, we did get the revised proffers on Friday, but the changes were relatively small. They were redlined out, so it was very easy to follow up and read. It's not like we got them for the first time on Friday, so we did have ample time to look at them over the weekend. And our county attorney and Mr. Smolnick went back and forth to clarify a few things. So I don't think we just threw this into the wind and hope for the best. But I do appreciate your concerns, and I think we made a good decision tonight. So that being said, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Are we going to have any, we already covered all the informational items.
I make a motion that we adjourn the Board of Supervisors to Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom of Rivercombe Building located at 10459 Courthouse Drive, King George, Virginia, 22485.
Second.
Motion properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We are now adjourned.